Peace, love, and prosperity to all of humanity on planet Earth. This is Abdul Al Kabir, the great servant of the people, the legitimate and de jure Sultan of the Empire of Morocco as of June 8th, 2024. Must put an emphasis on legitimate and de jure because there's an imposter running around once upon a time referred to as tumbleweed. There's an imposter running around claiming to hold the office that I represent. It's always important to make that point clear that Camden Bay is an imposter. Abdul Al Kabir is the de jure or the legitimate first and only sultan since the reestablishment of the Empire of Morocco. Today, we're getting back into the United States Kool-Aid. We're getting back into their business. Because last week, what we talked about? We talked about uh, their battles to gain recognition on an international level. Their battles with being admitted into the international community, the family of nations. Does anyone recall who were their main challenge to becoming a sovereign and independent state? Do you all recall who was their challenger, their
Britain.
contender? Yeah, Great Britain. And now, let's qualify it though. Not just Great Britain, but what? The 1700s Great Britain. Big difference. Why is it a big difference? Speaking of the 1700 Great Britain versus today's Great Britain, what's the difference?
Based on last week's class, it was about them being more themselves,
What's
as
the
well
difference?
as, you know, the fork tongue that the United States was leading with, speaking in two languages. One, they humble servants, and the other is that they are free and independent. So, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Great Britain, yeah. And the Moorish Great Britain. All these countries, all these European countries, Germany, Great Britain, France, Spain, Italy, Portugal, Russia. Does anyone know who Alexander Pushkin is?
He created the Russian language.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. He is the one who created the Russian language. And what does he look like?
A Moroccan, a Moor. It got
Yeah. Same
naturalized.
same as Mozart, same as Beethoven. All these people are Moors. So you mean to tell me that Russia was being ran by white folk when Alexander, we just that nice. There was just this one black guy in Russia who said, I'm going to give you a language. No, Russia was developed and established by the Moors. That's why when you look at the Kremlin, it's a Habu property. The Kremlin is a Habu property. The White House is a Habu property. All of their capital buildings that they're operating out of, their governments, are Habu property, of which they owe 7% for the lease on an annual basis, according to the Act of Algeciras. So these countries all are countries developed by the Moors, right? So um, you'll also learn about the regencies in this class here. So so um so last week we talked about them seeking their independence. We went over the Declaration of Independence, correct? Um the what is it called? The olive branch petition, the Sultan's proclamation against, not the Sultan, the King George III, his proclamation against his rebellious subjects. So, in the moment in which the United States is seeking to establish their sovereignty and independence, recognition, they're also fighting war against two entities. What two entities were they fighting? Great Britain and the Moors of Morocco. So the Moors of Great Britain and the Moors of Morocco, they were just surrounded. Remember the George Washington letter that we'll be going over today, in which he said, I regret the hostilities of the regencies that we did nothing to, and they're not to be removed. No, they're not to be removed. You can naturalize them, but you can't remove them. Anyhow, the point being is that they were fighting battles while at the same time seeking their independence. You can't do this alone, Moors. No matter how mighty and formidable you are. If you've been in a shallow grave since 1956, the government, our government, not the people, the government was in a shallow grave since 1956. The people, however, have been in a shallow grave long before that, especially those of the West, the founders and true possessors. Hear me out. The founders and true possessors of the Moroccan Empire. Those are the Moors in the West, Al-Maghrib al-Aqsa, the Negroes, the Asiatic Hebrews, the blacks, the African Americans, the coloreds. Those are the founders and true possessors, meaning that the empire started in the West. It didn't start in the East, it started in the West, expanded into the East from the West. But we lost that knowledge long ago. And we've been in a shallow, the people have been in a shallow grave probably a century, in a shallow grave probably a century prior to the empire itself falling into a shallow grave. I'm talking about the people in the West who were force-fed the misinformation of them being Africans from another land, a foreign land. You came here from a foreign land. And Martin Luther King thought proper to tell everyone, and I have a dream speech. What did he say? The Negro is languished in the corners of American society, where he finds himself exiled on his own homeland. Shortly thereafter, pew pew, they got rid of the good brother. And interestingly enough, Jesse Jackson was standing right next to him, huh? The one who said, you're just African, you're African American. From here on out, you're African American. But he was standing next to Martin Luther King, which means he also knew that we were, what? Prisoners in our own homeland. Keep in mind, he was also Cherokee. The foolishness of our people. Our sellout Negro leader guys. Rest in peace, but thanks for nothing. Thanks for nothing. Push coalition. Thanks for nothing. How old was the man? In his 80s? 80 years. What'd he do for us? What was the forward progress? Non-existent. other than, oh, we got a nationality now. It's African American. We're two continents. So the people have been in a shallow grave for a very long time. So now that we're coming back into government, in a shallow grave, meaning also that you are under the bootstraps of someone else, of a foreign power that's governing your affairs. You have become rusty at the art of governing your own affairs because you have been dependent on someone else to do it for far too long, which caused you to forget basic principles of political science. Though we still um, have it in us. How is it? How you think that the Crips and Bloods structure work? It's political science. Structure. It is a structure with the Crips and the Bloods. So we use those um, philosophies in the lower self, which come from the higher self. It's always been that way, right? The Game of Thrones, quote unquote, wars between kingdoms. That's no different than wars between blocks. It's just one much more on a higher level. The other one is on a much lower level. So you, so now in this, so now that you're coming back into power, you need assistance. The same way the United States needed assistance. Everyone needs assistance, diplomatic assistance. You can't just come out of a grave, right, doing the things that you once did. It doesn't make sense. You have to rehabilitate. You have to rebuild. So if they needed assistance, of course we do too. And these are some of the things that can be utilized. Some of this language can be utilized in my uh, subsequent Trump letters. Oh, I'll remind him of the Frenchman. I'll remind him of how they got started. They got started under us. But you want to quote certain things. These are sales letters. They're diplomatic letters, but they're sales letters. The Trump administration are my prospects. I got to sell them and close them on an idea, while at the same time corresponding with other nations to close them on the same idea. You see, Operation Political Swarm, as distinguished from the previous idea that was actually nonsensical called Operation Swarm, in which you're gathering evidence. So, in the process of gathering evidence, what are you doing? Causing injury. Oh, everybody better get ready to get punched in the mouth. You better get ready to get kicked in the teeth. This is what Jermaine Diaz Spencer used to tell them all. We're collecting evidence to take them to the ICJ. Ain't nobody going to no ICJ. They're not going to the ICJ. We're not going to the ICJ. No one is going to the ICJ. It's not happening, Captain. The Prime Minister has a point of interest in a little while here in which he's going to explain a few things regarding the steps necessary, the due process to take them to the ICJ. Is going to be a lifetime before you're ever even able to do it, if you're able to even accomplish it. The lowest hanging fruit is the political reforms. So we've been playing. He has been playing with the people's lives under the guise of quote unquote gathering evidence. to go nowhere. You're not going to the ICJ to present your so-called evidence. No, what was acquired were injuries. That's what happened. Now, there's some people who deserved it because they were just full-blown drug dealers and we knew nothing of it. They got caught up trying to stand on their Moroccan nationality. And so therefore, the fake removed judge who presided over me, over my case, over the so-called impeachment, I should say, of the head of the high court, while she was conducting, reading the script delivered by the producer and director. While she was reading that script, in that moment, she had a warrant. Dealing with 1,000 pills of, I don't know, methamphetamine, whatever. So that's the judge that supposedly so-called Cartoon Network High Court me. It was a Cartoon Network High Court impeachment based on a script. This is Impact 2.0. It's a bunch of criminals and drug dealers over there, starting with the leadership. Tumbleweed. Everyone knows who Tumbleweed is, and everyone within the so-called nucleus. Jermaine, the Castilian, Dre. We used to clown that dude, calling him Tumbleweed. And J Bay came up with that term. So now they have him as the Sultan. Huh. Okay, Sultan Tumbleweed. Fair enough, makes sense. So while we're going through these varying stages, we're fighting our own people. While the United States is going through their varying stages, they're fighting their own people. Y'all see, this is the reason why I brought it up. I'm drawing the parallel. It's interesting, very fascinating. Is the clock of destiny ticking away? So George Washington and them trying to seek their sovereignty and independence got to fight with the Great Britain, with the Brits, with Great Britain, which is their mother country. That's what they said. They call themselves loyal subjects. Same thing. We're trying to decolonize and we got to fight our own people because he is not to be questioned or investigated. Mo, Larry, and Curly, who appeared in my affidavit, are not above the law. That's why the affidavit was presented. I'm the boss. All the rest of them were absolutely subordinate to me. I'm well within my rights and authority to call for an investigation when the people are raising questions as to who is the empire. Is it AMPAC or is it J Bay? Who is the empire? This is what the people were asking. So my affidavit was based on the question in Morocco. The question was based in the detection. They detected, the people detected nefarious activities. But they didn't know to articulate it as sedition. They didn't know to articulate it as sedition. No worries, that's why I'm your sultan. I'll take it from here. It's called sedition, Morris, and treason. So the clock of destiny was going on with them, is going on with us. But we don't have to deal with guns. We don't have to deal with cannons. We don't have to deal with muskets. It's just the pen war, that's all. So that makes our fight a little easier. A lot easier, as a matter of fact, because we even have Zoom. We don't have to go horseback riding from colony to colony, writing everything with a pen, with the feather pen, whatever you call it. No, we just type up the document, print it off, and boom, there goes the Constitution. There goes the laws. We got it a lot easier, Morris. But either way, you still require assistance. Just the same way they were given assistance by the Sultan. Islam. So the name is Etienne. Etienne. I don't know. I'm not French. Etienne, the orbit, the Audibert,
Étienne.
Caille. They call him Caine, Kicaine. The United States call him Caine. So that's the merchant's name. Etienne, the Audibert, Caille. So he has a short note to the commissioners, 14 April 1778. 1778. So Etienne was a Moor. More than likely, it's 1778. It was a Moor. Don't get it twisted. Okay, brother Rashid, could you read this document
Yes,
here
sir.
that comes from the National Archives, Founders Online? Go ahead, brother.
Yes, sir.
And I apologize for you having a struggle with this name, but you got it, brother. You got it.
Yes, sir. Étienne Dodibert Caille to the commissioners. Cadiz, 14 April 1778. In the Franklin Papers, this letter addressed to Franklin, Dean, and Lee was docketed by J.A. Memoir of Mr. Dodibert Caille to be sent to the Emperor of Morocco. Dodibert Caille proposed that he be authorized to conclude an agreement with the Emperor of Morocco. Aux means conditions, que plusieurs autres puissances en fait avis sea sovereign to protect American ships and seamen while also promoting trade. Dodibert Caille was appointed consul for foreign nations by the emperor in 1778 and 1785. William Carmichael apparently empowered him to act as American correspondent in Morocco. John Jay to the President of the Congress, 30 November 1780, in enclosures, Warden, Diplomatic Correction, American Revision, Dodibert Caille to Benjamin Franklin, 6 July 1784, and to William Carmichael, 1785, in the Franklin Papers. Right. Although there is no evidence that any action was taken on this letter, relations with the states of North Africa were important in regard to American Mediterranean trade that had been dealt with in both the Treaty Plan of 1776 and the Franco-American Treaty of Amity and Commerce of 1778. It was not, however, until ratifications of the Franco-American treaties were formally exchanged on 17 July that the commissioners concerned themselves with the question. Then they invoked Article 8 of the Treaty of Amity and Commerce, which required the King of France to use his good offices with the Emperor of Morocco and other North African rulers. Not until 1786 did the United States negotiate a treaty with Morocco.
You can leave it there.
Right.
For some reason, it's as short as that. A quick snippet, historical snippet from the National Archives. They're confining their remarks, I suppose, dealing with Mr. Caille as the consul. See, he was the consul that represented His Majesty's states that were not under representation. Did you hear what I said? His Majesty's states that were not under representation were giving representation. So as far as the United States, it was this Frenchman, French merchant. This is the Atlantic Council. U.S. Morocco Treaty Partnership at 225. This was written on July 15, 2011 by Peter Pham. Peace Pham, Peter Pham, right? U.S. Morocco Treaty Partnership at 2025, which is the 225th anniversary. Let's see what Peter Pham's perspective is dealing with U.S. Morocco relations and as it relates to the Frenchman, Mr. Étienne. Islam, go ahead, brother. Read this for me.
Today marks the 225th anniversary of the longest unbroken treaty relationship to which the United States is a party. On July 15, 1786, 18 Ramadan 1200, in Marrakesh, American agent Thomas Barclay was handed the final protocol of the Treaty of Peace and Friendship by his Moroccan counterpart, Tahir bin Abdelhak Fenish. Certified translations of the articles will be incorporated in a document eventually signed by Thomas Jefferson and John Adams as ministers plenipotentiary and ratified by Congress the following year on July 18, 1787. The long-term success of the partnership which emerged from the treaty contains lessons which are still relevant as Washington seeks to strengthen our forge links with other African countries, especially those along the Atlantic coast of the continent. First, without necessarily being exclusive, relations have to be direct. Subcontracting them out to other partners who may or may not be disinterested is not viable.
Pause real quick. Pause real quick. So they're talking about the strategic location of these so-called North African states, right, which is in the Atlantic coast of the continent. That would be the west part of the continent, correct? Would everyone agree to that? If you're saying the Atlantic coast, that means you're talking about the west coast of the African continent, correct? Which would be the east coast of the American continent, correct?
Right. Correct.
Okay. All right. So, didn't Noble Drew Ali in the Circle 7 when he was describing the empire? Didn't he say west, all the way to the west of Africa? Yes or no? From Egypt all the way to the west of Africa. Correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Correct.
Furthermore, if the western side of Africa, the Atlantic side of Africa, if that's the west, wouldn't that make this side over here, the farthest west? Yes or no?
Yes. That's correct.
Yes, it would.
Oh, okay. So we're in Maghreb al-Aqsa, Morocco of the farthest west. And even that is can be questioned to a degree. Because the real terminology is the start of Morocco, not necessarily Morocco of the farthest west. Morocco at its foundation. Do you hear the difference there? It started over here. So it's not necessarily Morocco of the farthest west. I would say it's more like y'all are Morocco of the farthest east. That's more like it. Morocco of the farthest east is Europe and Africa. But it all started in the west. That is north, central, south, and the islands. The same buildings that you see up here is the same buildings you'll see in Brazil, the same buildings you'll see in Panama, the same buildings you'll see in Peru, the same buildings you'll see in Chile, Argentina, where Adolf went exile. The Adolf went exile in Argentina. So I just wanted to point out, because in some of this article and the next article that we're getting ready to read, and then like everything else, they love putting everything off into the West, into the East, North Africa, as if that's the end all be all. And this over here is just strictly theirs. No. No. The George Washington letters will reveal the truth on that. You may continue, good brother. First, without necessarily being exclusive. Right?
Although Sultan, first, without necessarily being exclusive, relations have to be direct. Subcontracting them out to partners who may or may not be disinterested is not viable. Although Sultan Muhammad III bin Abdallah Al Khatib was the first foreign sovereign to recognize the independence of the United States, when in December 1777 he included America in the list of countries to whom Morocco's ports were open. The relationship nearly floundered when Benjamin Franklin was convinced by his Parisian hosts to ignore the overtures of Étienne Caille, a merchant in Sale whom the monarch entrusted with initiating contact with the new country.
When it says Sale, that is a city in Morocco. So he was known as Étienne Caille of Sale, Morocco. So he was a French merchant who lived in Sale, Morocco, and that's what that means. That's what that means by Sale. Islam. Go ahead, bro. Continue.
Islam. Fortunately, Caille was persistent and went over Franklin's head and appealed to the Second Continental Congress, which, after some delay, commissioned Jefferson and Adams to negotiate a treaty, recognizing the value of the offer of diplomatic and economic relations to a young nation still struggling for acceptance in the international community.
Yeah, a young nation still struggling for acceptance in the international community. So what does it say here? First, without necessarily being exclusive, relations have to be direct. In order for us to achieve decolonization, relations have to be direct. See, as we're reading this history, we're also seeing the playbook. Y'all follow what I'm saying? On how it is that we're going to achieve this mission. This is political reforms, the politics, the executive branch. The Sultan, the Prime Minister, in conjunction, the relationship between the government and the House, according to the Constitution. The House is also involved in this, the legislative branch, who has nothing to do with any of this. Who needs to find a chair somewhere? The same thing he told Kirk Palmer Bay. Who need to go sit down somewhere? And even worse, now that you've been removed, sir, the judge, the so-called judge, the judges ain't got nothing to do with this. The diplomatic and political relations is what brings about decolonization, sovereignty and independence, your persistency. The same way Mr. Caille, a merchant in Sale, whom the monarch entrusted with initiating contact with the new country. The new country. So he got wind of what was going on. The Sultan did. How did he get wind of what's going on? The politics. They brought awareness to their cause, the question of America. And the Sultan said, I'll answer the question. It's a good opportunity to generate revenue, new revenues for the empire. Let's open up the ports to them. So Great Britain is saying, no, they are rebellious subjects of Great Britain. The Sultan says, I understand, but I'm not treating them as British. I'm treating them as what? A separate nation. Because of that, Great Britain had to fall back. Because if the Sultan treats them as a separate nation, then that means that they are now being recognized as a sovereign and independent country, which means you can't bring harm against them. They're sovereign and independent. They're not your so-called subjects, or at least in my eyes, that's the Sultan speaking, right? So we're going to open up the ports to them. We're going to sign and conclude a treaty to further recognize their sovereignty and independence, which then led to Great Britain finally recognizing the United States sovereignty and independence. Because you see, it required a superpower to assist the United States with their sovereignty and independence, with being accepted in the international community. So first he sent Mr. Caille, who he entrusted with initiating contact with the new country, right? And then went into through that go in between middleman relationship is where now they come to establishing, ratifying the Treaty of Peace and Friendship. But you ain't learned none of this in school. You're learning it tonight. Go ahead, brother.
Islam. Yeah, Islam. So the Crown put the correct pronunciation of the brother's name in the chat, by the way. Islam.
Okay. Islam.
Second, relationships are more likely to be sustainable when they are comprehensive. Although primitive by the standards of today's technical precision, the 1786 treaty covered everything from diplomatic relations. The consuls of the United States of America shall reside in any seaport of our dominions that they think proper, and they shall be respected and enjoy all the privileges which the consuls of any other nation enjoy. To non-hostility, if either of the parties shall be at war with any nation whatever, the other party shall not take a commission from the enemy to access markets. If any vessel of either party shall put into a port of the other and have occasion for provisions or other supplies, they shall be furnished without any interruption or molestation. On the basis of most favored nation.
That's the Treaty of Peace and Friendship. That's the exact language in the Treaty of Peace and Friendship. Continue, brother.
The commerce with the United States shall be on the same footing as is the commerce with Spain, or as that with the most favored nation for the time being. Third, security interests help to consolidate other ties. The final article to be attached to the treaty was a security provision that was most beneficial to the young American nation at a time when its merchant shipping was often preyed upon by various European warships. If any vessel belonging to the United States shall be in any of the ports of His Majesty's dominions or within gunshot of his forts, she shall be protected as much as possible, and no vessel whatever belonging either to Moorish or Christian powers with whom the United States may be at war shall be permitted to follow or engage her. As we now deem the citizens of America our good friends. This modest promise of protection has over the centuries evolved to the point where Morocco is one of just over a dozen countries to enjoy the designation of major non-NATO ally of the United States.
Balls right there. You see, he's quoting the Treaty of Peace and Friendship. But let's examine something. Third, security interests help to consolidate other ties. The final article to be attached to the treaty, so that's what he's talking about, was a security provision that was most beneficial to the young American nation. Okay. You're an ancient people, black man. You're an ancient people. How in the hell you become a young American nation? In other words, how in the hell are you American? That's a young American nation as of the 1700s. You're an ancient people. What I'm saying is you're not American. You're not an American Indian. And this ain't India. India is over there, and they got a president, and they wear a red dot on their forehead. Those are the Indians. We're also not Indians, Taj Taribe, right? Okay. Young American, and I say that because that's what Taj used to say. We're not Indian. This ain't Indian. We're not Indians. You know, Taj is hilarious a lot of times. The young American nation at a time when its merchant shipping was often preyed upon by various European warships. Really? Someone wanna I'm gonna give someone on the floor an opportunity to come off mute and clear that up a little bit. I know somebody on here knows who there was really being preyed upon by.
Moroccan warships.
The,
The
the
pirate,
Barbary powers.
yeah. And what other pirates? What's the name of this group of pirates? Remember? Where do you get the word?
Um, that hold up, don't tell us, Sultan. Don't tell us. Hold up.
Don't look it up. How you talking about hold
I
up?
ain't looking it up. I'm thinking
I'm
about it.
trying
It's
to Google it real
It's with a
quick.
J. It's with a J.
Nope, it's with an R.
No,
With
no,
an
no.
R.
The Pirates Jubilee. You reminded me of something though when the name. It's
Yeah, it's now it's a word. It has become a word. What are the three?
Redbeard.
Jubilum.
Okay, what are they? What are they?
Damn.
In the allegory, what are they referred to as? The three what?
Riffians. That's the
There you
name.
go. The Riffians, the Riff, the Riff pirates. Oh,
I've
but hold up.
never heard that term. I need to
Oh
look
yeah.
that up.
Oh, I did a class on that not too long ago. Well, it was part of the class. I didn't do a
Islam.
class specifically on it, but it was part of the class. But hold up, though. But hold up. It says various European warships. So that's what I was saying earlier. Perhaps, yes, you're right. You're just omitting the other forces that they had to deal with, which were the Moors, the Regencies, the Rifts, the pirates. So this is even worse. They had to deal with the European warships and the Moors. Oh, God. They needed a lot of help. And who gave it to them? Morocco, right? So they preyed upon by various European warships. And that's why, which is also the Rift pirates and their ships, that's why it says if any vessel belonging to the United States shall be in any of the ports of His Majesty's dominion or within gunshot of his ports, he shall be protected as much as possible, and no vessel whatever belonging either to Moorish or Christian powers, with whom the United States may be at war, shall be permitted to follow or engage her, as we now deem the citizens of America our good friends. The citizens of America, right? American nationals, American citizens, U.S. citizens, all the same thing. It's all semantics. So don't come to me with, oh, no, see, I'm not a U.S. citizen. I'm an American national. And my passport, my 5-star passport refers to me as an American. Yeah, good luck with that, bro. Good luck with that. An American national is a U.S. citizen. The same stuff. It's all no different than saying black. Black is an American, a U.S. citizen. We got a lot of misconceptions. We got a lot of misconceptions of the people. We don't know nothing. We don't understand things. And when you try to break it down, there's always pushback. My grandmother told me that I'm Indian. Yeah, well, your grandmother was miseducated too, sir, ma'am. Sorry to tell you. The same way you were miseducated, she was miseducated. She was just miseducated first before you became miseducated. So the miseducation went down the bloodline, generation after generation after generation. You're not Indian. And this ain't India. You're Moroccan, and this is Morocco. You may be of a tribe, like Iroquois, Lenni Lenape, etc., but these are Moroccan tribes, not Indian American tribes. These are Moroccan tribes. And they don't have no sovereignty. The authority is the empire. The tribes is what caused the empire to break up. Don't forget that. This modest promise of protection has over the centuries evolved to the point where Morocco is one of just over a dozen countries to enjoy the designation of major non-NATO ally of the United States. See, this is today's Morocco. You see how they just commingled it? The kingdom of Morocco, not the empire. Empire ain't got nothing to do with none of that. All the countries in NATO belongs to the empire. But they're talking about the kingdom here. Today's kingdom. Okay, good brother. Going to the fourth perspective. Fourth, relations.
Fourth, relations prosper when each side sees opportunity for economic growth with the other. It was no
Okay,
accident that one
pause
of
right
your
there. Pause right there. Read that again for me, please. That first line.
fourth, relations prosper when each side sees opportunity for economic growth with the other.
Read that one more time for me, please.
Fourth, relations prosper when each side sees opportunity for economic growth with the other.
And this is why I'm the Sultan, not Jermaine Diaz Spencer, and certainly not Tumbleweed. This is the reason why I'm the Sultan. That's my idea. And I'm just reading this today. So when you look at my letter, what is my letter? A sales letter. I'm pitching an idea to the Trump administration. Morris, oh man, y'all better go back and read that letter again. Relations prosper when each side sees opportunity for economic growth with the other. The United States is in bad shape. Yeah, Trump can deflect all he wants, talking about we're the envy of the world and we're the hottest country. Yeah, for the wrong reasons. You're the hottest country, meaning you're the most talked about country. Yeah, for the wrong reasons. Because, like I told him in my letter, I question your foreign policy. I don't have a problem with his internal policies, his domestic policies. No one can convince me that he's the worst president in American history. Like, that's just absolutely ridiculous. That's just straight up CNN, Whoopi Goldberg, The View, Democrat left narratives. He's not the worst president ever. Come on, let's just stop it right there. But his foreign policies are suspect. Why are you bombing a school during Ramadan? What's wrong with you, sir? But that bombing, due to that bombing, he now has to face the wrath of Allah. Oh. So him bombing that school expedites the decolonization process. At any rate, they are a hot nation because everyone is talking about them, because everyone is talking down on them, meaning everyone wants to get rid of them. The United States, that is. So in order for him to make America great again, he has to assist the Moors in making Morocco great again. Period. The only thing that's going to save the United States is their diplomatic relations with the Empire of Morocco by way of bringing, or should I say assisting, the black man to becoming self-governed again as Moroccan. In other words, he must right the wrongs, the historical wrongs of the same American colonial structure that he's trying to build to be free and prosperous and all this, make America great again. Well, you can't be great when you got all these skeletons in your closet. The skeletons in your closet, the corruption that has went on for the past 2 decades, or should I say centuries, is not sustainable. Corruption is not sustainable. I told Jermaine this, and well, the Prime told Jermaine this in our email. A deceitful pen will lose its power over time, whereas a righteous pen will increase in power over time. Corruption, wickedness, fraudulence, malfeasance. This stuff is not sustainable. Yeah, you've been holding it down for 250 years, but not comfortably. You've been constantly looking over your shoulders with your boot on our necks, hoping and praying, praying and hoping, praying to everybody, Allah, Jesus, everybody, that these Moors don't come to the knowledge of self. That's a very uncomfortable reign. So you have to bring in the drugs. Operation Iran Contra, George Bush in there, Freeway Ricky Ross, flood them with drugs, destroy their community. That's not being comfortable. This is the history. This is the history. We're going over the real history of the United States that we didn't learn in school. So, as I'm saying, in order for America to prosper from here on out, in these day and times, in which the global majority, notice what I said, the global majority, which are the indigenous peoples, is 193 member states in the United Nations. It's only a handful of so-called white West countries. Everyone else is dark-skinned indigenous. So it's like 170 of the global majority, and there's only like, I don't know. And most of them are subject to the Empire of Morocco. 12 of them at least. Great Britain, Germany, United States, Russia, Spain, Italy, France. But don't get it twisted. The man behind the man are the Moors, even with those countries. So when you see Macron, when you see Trump, when you see whoever, just know there's somebody that looks just like you and I who's pulling the strings behind the scenes. Trump, Macron, King Charles, they're all Mamluks, warrior slaves who have taken the post of administrators on behalf of the Moors, against the Moors. I just dropped the jewel. Do your research on that. Continue, brother. So the opportunity for economic growth exists between the United States and the Empire of Morocco. Because if we were to come together, like Noble Drew Ali said, with the handshake, remember the handshake, the dark hand with the pale hand, shaking hands, that's us coming together again with the empire in the dominant position. Just like I told him. I told Trump in the letter, I let him know, let me be unequivocally clear. The empire shall remain a sovereign and independent state as it's always been. Period. So any negotiations, any diplomatic relations, any friendly relations that may take place between us, just know there is no other status. There is absolutely no other status other than sovereignty and independence as it relates to the Moors and the Moroccan Empire. We shall govern our own. We don't need you worth a damn. The only thing we need you for. Let me rephrase that. The only thing we could use you for is the assistance that's required based in Article 73, Part E of the United Nations Charter. So that's what my letter represents, Moors. Relations prosper when each side sees opportunity for economic growth with the other. Go back and read my letter. You'll see what I'm talking about. Go ahead, brother.
Um, for no, it was no accident that one of George Washington's earliest diplomatic messages was addressed to Muhammad III, both explaining the hiatus in communications due to the ratification of the U.S. Constitution and touting the potential of the new republic. It gives me pleasure to have this opportunity of assuring your majesty that I shall not cease to promote every measure that may conduce to the friendship and harmony which so happily subsists between your empire and these young and between your empire and these this young
He's
nation just
quoting.
recovered.
He's quoting the George Washington letter. That's what he's
Yeah,
doing. Yeah, go
yeah,
ahead,
pardon me.
continue, bro. Mhm.
This young nation, just recovering from the waste and desolation of a long war, has not as yet had time to acquire riches by agriculture or commerce. But our soil is beautiful and our people industrious, and we have reason to flatter ourselves that we shall gradually become useful to our friends. Unquote. The friendship treaties guarantee of minimal government interference with commercial activities. Quote, merchants shall not be compelled to buy or sell any kind of goods, but such as they shall think proper, unquote, enabled a thriving trade to develop, so much so that in 2004, a free trade agreement was entered into by the two countries. The treaty relationship
No,
between
no, clarity. It's not the two countries. 2004. There ain't no Empire of Morocco. You see how they commingle this. See what they do. They're talking about the 1700s Empire of Morocco, and then now he wants to commingle that with the 2004 Kingdom of Morocco. No, sir, no, ma'am. That position is to be looked into and examined now because the Empire of Morocco is back on the political chessboard, as distinguished from some kingdom over there with some Muhammad V, who, you know, said, I'm just going to create a new kingdom and leave the
right,
Moors on their own.
right,
They
forced them to
forsaken
be
us.
forced
Go
us to
ahead.
be slaves, forced us to be prisoners of war. We not Americans.
Yeah, that's what was the end result of that move for him to
And
establish
they
the kingdom.
and they all want to turn a blind eye like they don't see and know what's going on.
That's what it's meant by uh, the delegates of the several countries in the question of Morocco discussion, in which they said that we were placed in a closet. Yeah, because everyone turned the well, not just them, the whole world turned a blind. That's the Illuminati secret. That's what I'm saying. The whole world is in on it, and they have all their little clandestine organization, clandestine. I want the Moors, especially the Impact 2.0 Moors, to focus on the word clandestine organization, Masonic order, moving in secrecy, holding secrets. So, what secrets were they holding this whole time regarding the Illuminati secret? The New World Order? Yes, kind of, sort of. But it's not onto itself. The New World Order is linked to something. The true history as to what they're holding or hiding, which is who these Moors are. So the Moors coming back into power is the New World Order. Thank you very much. So yes, it is about the New World Order, but not in a way that you think. It's not about no Rothschilds. It's not about no Rockefellers and the UN and this and that. No, it's about the Moors, the Empire of Morocco coming back onto the political chessboard, coming back into the family of nations to reign in the order on behalf of fallen humanity. Period. Continue, brother.
Uh, the treaty relationship between the United States and Morocco was by no means assured, especially given the various obstacles that had to be overcome in order to even sign the accord, much less to permanently renew it in 1836. Nevertheless, more than 2 centuries after its signing, the pact has proven to have justified both the far-sightedness of Muhammad III and the efforts of Washington, Adams, and Jefferson. If today the balance has shifted in favor of what Morocco gains from close ties within America that has grown immensely since the Treaty of Friendship was negotiated by Barclay and finished. Nonetheless, it remains a vital asset for the United States to continue having the kingdom as moderate, indeed reformist ally in the Maghreb, as well as a political and commercial springboard for links presently being forged in the geostrategically increasingly important areas along the Africa's Atlantic coast.
Thank you, good brother. Excellent read. Now, let's unpack a little bit that last paragraph. He said a lot. And I don't know if you guys were listening. Okay. The treaty relationship between the United States and Morocco was by no means assured, especially given the various obstacles that had to be overcome in order to even sign the accord, much less to permanently renew it in 1836. Nevertheless, more than 2 centuries after its signing, the pact has proven to have justified both the farsightedness of Muhammad III and the efforts of Washington, Adams, and Jefferson. If today the balance has shifted in favor of what Morocco gains from close ties, right? If today though, see, his today was 2004, 2011, whatever, whoever wrote this article. Today is 2026, right? All right. If today the balance has shifted in favor of what Morocco gains from close ties with an America that has grown immensely since the Treaty of Peace and since the Treaty of Friendship was negotiated by Barclay and Finnish. Who is Finnish? Does anyone remember who is Finnish? We know who Barclay is. Who is Finnish? Who is Finnish? All right, let me help y'all out. Because it was in this exact same read right here. That's the part that's funny. It was just read. Finnish was the Moroccan negotiator, the counterpart to Barclay in negotiating the Treaty of Peace and Friendship. So in other words, the Treaty of Peace and Friendship was negotiated between, oops, why does it keep doing that? Barclay and Finnish. Barclay for the Americans and Finnish, oh man, why does it keep doing that? And Finnish for the Moroccans. Why does this keep popping up? I'm not sure. Okay, so continuing on. Where is it? Okay, nonetheless, it remains a vital asset for the United States. It remains a vital asset for the United States to continue having the kingdom as moderate. Did y'all hear that? It remains a vital asset for the United States to continue having the kingdom as moderate. Because if you have this empire, it's not as moderate now, is it? See, it's an asset to maintain or have for having the kingdom as moderate. Because with the kingdom there as moderate, who is out of the way that has all the sovereign authority? The empire. You see how he just told on himself? We got to unpack this stuff, boy. Indeed, reformists ally in the Maghreb as well as political and commercial springboard for links presently being forged in the geostrategically increasingly important areas along the Africa's Atlantic coast, which is still Morocco's Atlantic coast. Think America when I say Morocco. I mean, think Morocco when you say America, and think Morocco when you know what I mean. When I say America's coast, Morocco's coast. But I didn't say that. I said Moroccan coast. So they said the African coast, we're saying Moroccan coast. It's the same coast. It's the same coast, the same jurisdiction. If you're talking about the west coast of Africa and the east coast of Morocco, which you would say the east coast of America, the American east coast seaboard, that's all Morocco. The Atlantic Ocean in the middle belongs to Morocco. The Atlantic Ocean in between that. From the halls of Montezuma to the shores of Tripoli. See, that's the Marines hymn. Halls of Montezuma is basically the Gulf of Mexico to the shores of Tripoli, West Africa, Northwest Africa, and everything else in between. That is the Atlantic Ocean. That is Morocco. Going back a little bit though, if today the balance has shifted in favor of what Morocco gains from close ties with an America that has grown immensely since the Treaty of Friendship was negotiated by Barclay and Finnish. If today the balance has shifted in favor of what Morocco gains, he's talking about the Kingdom of Morocco in this particular article. As I'm reading it, I'm talking about the empire. Okay, let me rephrase that then. If today the balance has shifted in favor of what the Empire of Morocco gains from close ties with an America that has grown immensely. Our ancestors set it up. Say that again, brother Marvin.
Islam, Sultan. I said those close ties of the treaty.
Yeah, but more importantly, what I'm also looking at is the okay. Right here, relations prosper when each side sees opportunity for economic growth with the other. So, again, if today the balance has shifted in favor of what the Empire of Morocco gains from close ties with an America that has grown immensely, they grew economically, did they not? Immensely. So our ancestors said, you know, we can't be, why did the Sultan do that? The United States, you're still in your lower self. You're still in the victim mindset. You have to ascend. You have to ascend. Because when you ascend, your new perspective would be, in hindsight, you would say, give thanks to the ancestors, give thanks to the Sultan. Because what the Sultan did was place a cash cow in our laps, in our hands. Because again, the far-sightedness of Muhammad III, the whole purpose was for revenue, was a money grab. Working with the United States was a money grab. It was to establish revenue for the empire. Morris, come on. And since then, they have grown immensely. So, if today the balance has shifted in favor of the Empire of Morocco, gains from close ties with an America that has grown immensely. And it's not just the finances, many other things, the system as a whole. We can just plug into it. We don't have to do too much of anything. This is the reason why we need to go into the diplomatic relations with the United States. Because according to Article 5 of the Act of Algeciras, it's just, hey, you're just plugging us in. With us having the sovereign authority, what does plug in mean? Plug in means that every time the taxes are due, it just automatically goes into the treasury. We don't have to send them a letter, it's automatically debited into our treasury. When you scan our IDs, it automatically pops up with a warning sign. Red alert, warning sign.
We go around removing corruption.
This is a Moroccan. No, I'm talking about the ID. When you scan it, the police, when they scan it, a red warning sign pops up.
Oh, yeah.
This is a Moroccan. You might want to be careful with your next steps.
Exactly.
But then what else would that ID do? That ID would contain your trust owed to you from the U.S. So your ID is also your black card. Oh, you scan and you go.
Exactly.
That's what's coming down the pipe with me as the Sultan. I don't know about Tumbleweed, but with me as the Sultan, that's what's coming down the pipe.
I think that's how it should be.
Your ID represents it all. Your ID is going to be a black card, Morris.
Mm-hmm.
Your money going to be on your ID. Your identity going to be on your ID. And the United States is going to furnish that ID. It's going to be all a part of the system. We just plug it into the system. It's already there. Why reinvent the system? Just clean it up and use it to your advantage with the highest authority, as the highest authority. Trading places. So the Moors, the Moroccans will have a black card ID. Oh, snap. That's forward thinking, isn't it? Well, that's my mission and vision for the empire. Oh, I'm not absent of that. Oh, I'm not absent of that. Okay, brother, let's go on to the next article. This is mountvernon.org, which is basically the George Washington Presidential Library. Let's see what they talk about regarding Morocco and this Frenchman and the signing of the treaty and such. Let's look further into how they were able to establish their sovereignty and independence. Again, we're looking at the playbook. It's all political reforms. The United States did not take Great Britain to court, did they? No. They didn't take them to no court. What they did was they established diplomatic and friendly relations with a superpower. That's what they did. Go ahead, brother.
The geographic distance between the North American colonies and the Kingdom Morocco on the west coast of Africa. The Sultan or King of Morocco, Sidi Mohammed, learned of their struggle for independence through the French consul assigned to Morocco and via European newspapers.
Pause right there. Already, this is the reason why Abdul Al-Kabir is the Sultan. Yeah, I'm stroking my own ego right now because this is what I've been screaming for the past year when we were with the seditious and incompetent, actually now in hindsight, very incompetent, AMPAC 2.0. Despite the geographic distance between the North American colonies, and this is what caused the rift, one of the things that started causing the rift, by the way, is the feeling from that character that I was taking things in a different direction. Man, shut up and go sit down somewhere. Look at what they said. North American colonies and the Kingdom Morocco on the west. Come on, man. Come on.
I was looking at that like something wrong right there. Kingdom of Morocco.
All right. So then it says the west coast of Africa, the Sultan or King, no, the Sultan
So,
of Morocco, Sidi Mohammed, learned of their struggle for independence through the French consul assigned to Morocco. See, sponsorship, a sponsor. See, the sponsor is assigned to your country. Yes or no, Moors of the Decolonization Committee? Is that not what we've been studying and researching these past 5 months? Since the failed coup d'etat? Somebody ought to mute themselves. Have we not been researching and looking into these matters since the failed coup d'etat, right? Okay. So the French merchant is the what? The sponsor. So they were sponsoring the United States, right? Okay.
Mohammed V didn't have nothing to do with that.
Right. So hold on a second. So learn for their struggle for independence through the French consul assigned to Morocco. And I'm not finished though. See, hold on a second. Don't throw me. And via European what?
Newspaper.
What does that represent?
The media part.
Yes, it does, don't it? That's why I'm the Sultan. So what happened? The political and social reforms brought awareness to the Sultan to say, let me look into this situation with the Americans. You see, So it's the political and social reforms that drives the advisory opinion of the ICJ, if there's even one. You have to make noise, in other words. You have to make your presence be known and felt. You got to let the world know we're back. That's called awareness. That's what the political and social reforms bring about, awareness. Instead, they're operating in a clandestine manner. We're just gonna, gather evidence. No, you're gathering injuries. That's what you're doing. You're playing with people while you're putting to the test your little document called preliminary objection. Now, it has shown to work in many cases. It has been successful, but not in every case. Their AA, AG, Caille, L. AA stands for Alcoholic Anonymous. So the Alcoholic Anonymous AG knows best because he had to spend 6 months in jail, and which means that was the first time in his whole life he'd been sober. Behind the Operation Swarm, in which we were gathering injuries, not evidence. Because you're not going to the ICJ to present the evidence anyway. So you're just putting people in harm's way while you practice your self-taught mechanisms of so-called being a judge. Man, I'm more of a politician than this man is a judge. Just as well as I can teach myself to build a bridge, I can't teach myself to be a judge. That requires years and years of studies and practice. Come on, let's just. But that's the reason why there's so many misconceptions now in hindsight, Morris. We're starting to unravel all these misconceptions and misdirections. Not going to no ICJ. Prime Minister, could you please take the time? Let's finish this. After we finish this article, Grand Wazir Akil, please let's talk about why the ICJ it's not a viable option, especially not for these various stages of advancement of decolonization. So we see that it's going to require the political reforms and the media. The European newspaper is why the Sultan was able to come to the understanding of what's going on with the Americans. And when he saw it, he said, "What went off in his head? Cha-ching! Oh, I can bring them in, charge them taxes to use our dominions." And fast forward to 2 or so centuries later, 250 years later, now that we are coming back into power, we're coming back into power with that young nation that now became a full-grown nation and has immensely expanded and became a cash cow for the empire. So to that, I'll say to my predecessor, Sidi Muhammad, good looking out, homie. Go ahead, brother. The Sultan.
Islam. The Sultan began reaching out to the Americans on December 20th, 1777, by including them on a list of countries who would be welcome in Moroccan ports. In an effort to assist the process of opening diplomatic relations with the new country, several months later, the Moroccan emperor appointed a French merchant, Étienne, Caille, to serve as a consul for unrepresented nations, including the new United States, at his court. However, despite these efforts, Americans were slow to respond to Moroccan officials.
Okay, so what do you say? In an effort to assist the process of opening diplomatic relations with the new country, someone is going to do what? Assist the process of opening diplomatic relations with our newly reestablished empire. If it was good for them then, it's good for us now. Again, we're looking at the playbook more than anything else. in this particular class session that we're having this evening. We're looking at the playbook. Okay, brother, continue.
Relationship with Morocco during the American Revolution. Caille got to work quickly, writing on April 14, 1778 to Benjamin Franklin, the American minister to France. Upon receiving the letter, Franklin sought the advice of French officials who suggested that, quote, it was not safe to have any correspondence with him, unquote. Caille also tried to get through to the Americans via their minister in Madrid, John Jay. The American response must have disappointing. Years after Sidi Muhammad had first offered to open his ports to American shipping, President of the Continental Congress, Samuel Huntington, wrote to a friend to say that he had just received a letter on behalf of the emperor, inviting these United States to trade in his ports.
Pause
There was
right there.
another.
Yeah, oh, yeah, there you go. Pause right. I thought I was like, I was hoping I didn't have to hit the mute. Hold on a second. I think the most know where I'm going. The American response must have disappointing. I think it was trying to say must have been disappointing. I don't know. Years after Sidi Muhammad had first offered to open his ports to American shipping, President of the Continental Congress. Who? Samuel Huntington.
Wow.
What am I saying without saying it? Because I paused for a second here. What am I saying with that pause?
We got to follow the phonetics of the name. And
No. What I'm saying is Samuel Huntington is one of the 8 black presidents before George Washington. John Hanson being the first. I think Samuel Huntington is like the 3rd of the Continental Congress. This is mind-blowing. This is a mental twist. It causes your mind to be like twisted up and discombobulated because you're expecting to be talking about these white folks. So listen, man, John Adams couldn't be white. None of these people could have been white, man. This is what's interesting. The Great Britain issue with Great Britain and those who wanted to become American, who are giving pushback to the British. I mean, it's not beyond the realms of possibility to say all those people were Moors. Which is why you may see why the Moors are saying, well, we started the United States of America. Yeah, you probably, yeah. And no one really rejects that. It's just that, okay, what did Noble Drew Ali said, first of all, Moroccan Empire. We are of the empire. The reasons for these other countries is that's the whole thing right there, the undermining of the empire. We started establishing other stuff. I don't know. I can't give you the answer to everything. I'm learning too as I go. You know, when you're teaching, you're learning. But you have to be sharp in your thinking and quick on your feet. The moment I saw that, Samuel Huntington in the Continental Congress, automatically, I'm like, oh man, what's going on here? Y'all follow what I'm saying, Morris, please. Somebody come off and say Islam.
Islam. Yes, sir.
Somebody else, not just you, but I want to hear
Islam.
resounding Islam.
Islam. I hear
You
it.
know, it's
Islam, brother.
Man, listen. Once we decolonize and we gain access to the real history and the real story, the real truth of what took place, which is what we'll use to put together the educational reforms to establish a whole new curriculum for Moorish academia. It's going to be mind-blowing. We're gonna end up finding out that all these people were Moors. But like I said earlier, your Trumps and Bidens and Macrons and King Charles and George Bush, these are Mamluks. Everyone always says that. Don't people always say there's a man behind the man and there's a shadow government behind the United States and the cabal and the deep state and there's a shadow government and there's someone behind the scenes. The president is not sovereign. He has someone behind him. People always say that. Well, that's what they're saying to you. That there's Moors behind the scene. Again, John Wick 3. Go back and if y'all hadn't done it yet, go back and look at John Wick 3. It tells you clearly right there. It's expressed. Okay, good, continue, brother, because this really but hold on. Wrote to a friend to say that he had just received a letter on behalf of the emperor inviting these United States to trade in his port. So they were already calling it United States. But see, these states, 13 colonies, were supposed to be united. Those 13 colonies, the leaders of those several 13 colonies, I mean, how do you go from Samuel Huntington and John Hanson and all those so-called black presidents, Moorish presidents, to now suddenly everyone being white? How does that work? The math ain't mathing. 1 + 1 is not equaling 2 here. And when something doesn't make sense, that means there's a lie somewhere down the line. Or the whole thing is a lie. Always remember that. If it doesn't make if it doesn't make dollars, it don't make sense. Or if it don't make sense, it don't make whatever. If it doesn't make dollars, it don't make sense. Yeah, I think that's a term. In other words, if it doesn't make sense, it doesn't add up, then it can't be no truth. There's got to be deceit, misinformation, or bold-faced lies in the information or the story. Anyway, brother, continue. Because I'll spend forever in trying to unpack that. Go ahead, you may continue. So it was another 3 months.
It was another three months in December 1780 before the president of the Congress finally responded to the emperor. Assuring him of congressional desire, quote, to cultivate a sincere and firm peace and friendship with your majesty, and to make it lasting to all posterity, unquote. Relations continued at a slow pace for another 4 years, 7 years after the emperor's initial overtures to the Americans.
So he said, to cultivate a sincere and firm peace and friendship with your majesty and to make it lasting to all what? Posterities. Is that not what actually happened? This future generation of so-called Americans are the posterity. But I still got to question the phenotypes of these people. I'm confused. Does it matter? Yes. Because we were told everybody is white. I know that there's a poster, a campaign poster, during the campaign with Abraham Lincoln from his opponent, a smear poster. You know how they do, you know how they do you, right? Or how presidents or candidates do each other, smear each other, right? In the race for the presidency. Well, they had a poster of Abraham Lincoln calling him Abraham Africanus, wearing the scimitar sword with the pantaloons, which is like the hammer pants, right? The baggy pants type, with the slips, the slip-ons that flip up at the front. Moorish culture, Moorish garb, Moorish swagger. I think he had a turban on his head too in that poster from the 1800s from one of his opponents. I've seen a lot of presentations when they say, in which Moors have been saying that Abraham Lincoln was black. I've heard a lot of Moors say that George Washington was black. Mm. Man, we have been bamboozled, hoodwinked, led astray. Continue, my good brother.
After relationship with Morocco after the American Revolution. After the revolution, a more formal relationship with Morocco began in May of 1784. The Continental Congress resolved, or the Continental Congress, quote, resolved that treaties of amity or of amity and commerce be entered into with Morocco and the regencies of Algiers, Tunis, and Tripoli
There you
to
go, right
continue.
there. Regency. Remember that word? Of Algiers, Tunis, and Tripoli. I regret the hostilities of the regencies. Who are the regencies? Algiers, Tunis, and Tripoli. Continue reading, brother.
To continue for the same term of 10 years or for a term as much longer as can be procured, unquote. After noting, quote, that the occupations of the war and distance of our situation have prevented our meeting the emperor's friendship so early as we wished, unquote. Congress also, quote, resolved that a commission be issued to Mr. J. Adams, Mr. B. Franklin, and Mr. T. Jefferson, giving powers to them to make and receive propositions for such treaties of amity and commerce, and to negotiate and sign the same, transmitting them to Congress for their final ratification, and that such commission be enforced for a term not exceeding 2 years.
Okay,
Unquote.
boy. Right there. What did you just read? Statehood, government, governmental operations. You don't just say, oh, I'm the plenipotentiary, I'm the ambassador. You're not, so no one is. Oh man, oh man. How people may look. I hate to be in a room, a fly on the wall, when these Europeans talk about us. We won't be knowing what the hell we be talking about. You can't be self-appointed and you can't have a bunch of titles. You can't be the wazir and the consul general and the judge. And so this is how it works. Resolved that a commission be issued. So a U.S. commission issued to Mr. J. Adams, B. Franklin, and T. Jefferson, right? John Adams, Benjamin Franklin, and Thomas Jefferson, giving powers to them. So a commission came together to give them powers to make and receive propositions for such treaties of amity and commerce, and to negotiate and sign the same. You don't just say, I'm just going to sign a treaty. No. This is what's called an organized dual society. This is what's called government. Transmitting them to Congress for their final ratification. So once they have already signed it and negotiated and signed it, it's still not finished. See, that's the constitutional procedures. Now you got to send it over to the legislative branch for their final ratification. And that such commission be enforced for a term not exceeding 2 years. So they have these, they're being given these powers for 2 years. That's how government works, boys. So that's what Noble Jew Ali said. I'm gonna leave the Europeans here long enough to teach you how to run government. Well, they may or may not directly teach you, but what you have to do is study their moves to learn how it's done. Right? Which is what this class is about. We're examining the playbook. Continue, brother.
However, in Morocco, the emperor would not have known about these developments until months later. Feeling that he needed to do something dramatic to get the Americans' attention, he ordered the capture of an American ship and held it until he was sure that progress was finally underway. In August 1785, Thomas Jefferson wrote to a friend at home confirming the story, explaining, quote, "You have been told with truth that the Emperor of Morocco has shown disposition to enter into treaty with us, but not truly that Congress has not attended to his advances and thereby disgusted him. His dispositions continue good. As proof of this, he has lately released freely and clothed well the crew of an American brig he took last winter," unquote. The new American special agent for Morocco, Thomas Barclay, was appointed in October 1785 and arrived in the country the following summer. Within a week of his arrival in June 1786, Barclay met twice with the emperor and was able to report that, quote, "It will be agreeable for you to know that the last drop of the treaty is made and will probably be signed in a few days, and that our stay here will not exceed that of a week from this time," unquote. Treaty negotiations were completed by the middle of July 1786, and Barclay set out for Europe. It took another year for the treaty to go into effect, signed by two of the American ministers, John Adams and Thomas Jefferson, in January of 1787. The treaty was ratified by Congress in July of the same year, and finally signed by the President of Congress on July 18, 1787. It will remain in effect for 50 years.
You just learned yet again what government, statehood looked like. Political science. This is what we taught the Europeans. You just read over the constitutional procedures for ratifying and accepting an international document such as a treaty. So what happens? So it's signed, it was signed, right, by two of the American ministers, John Adams and Thomas Jefferson. First, it was negotiated the negotiation was with Barclay and who else? Who was the brothers? What was the brother's name on the Moroccan side?
Finish.
Finish.
There you go. Finish, whatever, right? Then signed by the American ministers, John Adams and Thomas Jefferson. So they signed it. That's not enough. That's still in part. And it's barely in part because they don't have that type of authority. They just signed it in good faith as the plenipotentiaries. What else happened? The treaty was then ratified
by Congress.
And then finally signed by the president. Here, in these times, it was the president of Congress, the Continental Congress, which means, well, wasn't George Washington the general? So if it was signed, okay, this is confused because I thought it was signed by the president of the United States. There's a difference. The president of the United States was George Washington. The president of Congress was someone else. The Moor. Oh. Which one is it? Either way. Either way. What we're looking at is the constitutional procedure. So the ministers signed it, John Adams and Jefferson. Then it was ratified by Congress, the legislative branch. And then it was signed by the president, which is the executive branch. When the president signs it, the head of state signs it, it comes into full force and effect. It becomes the law. So it's like a three-step verification process or something, if you will. You see? So remember that, Moors. Wazirs, Sayaraha's house members, that's government. That's how it works. You can't bypass the House. Just the same way they cannot bypass the Congress. And it's in the Constitution that the House is involved with ratification of treaties. All right, you can continue on, brother.
George Washington and Sultan Sidi Muhammad. On December 1st, 1789, George Washington sat down to write a letter to Sultan Sidi Muhammad. He addressed the king as, quote, "great and magnanimous friend," unquote. The recipient of the letter he wrote that day was Muhammad Ibn Abdullah, the Emperor of Morocco. While it had taken almost 10 years to bring the treaty to fruition, George Washington knew that this friendship was significant. After explaining the change in the government with the adoption of the new Constitution and introducing himself as the new head of the American government, Washington assured the Sultan that, quote, the encouragement which your majesty has been pleased generously to give to our commerce with your dominions, the punctuality with which you have caused the treaty with us to be observed, make a deep impression of the United States and confirm their respect for and attachment to your imperial majesty, unquote.
Respect for and attachment to your imperial majesty. So the United States is attached to who? His imperial majesty. And they're where? Where are they?
Dominions.
Your
Dominions.
your dominions. Yeah. He said your dominions, though, so he's talking to the Sultan. So the United States is in Morocco. So the president of the United States, the first president of the newly formed United States, said that way back then in 1789. And then France and the United States, the United States told France that in 1913. The United States is in Morocco. And then in 1952, the ICJ said the same thing. Do you see a pattern here? It's unequivocal. There's no way around it. They cannot escape this knowledge, this truth, this fact that the United States is in Morocco. And the Moors are the native Moors of Morocco. The black man is the original inhabitant of this land, being Morocco. So you have these British Moors who established the United States. And the Sultan assisted them in doing so. These are British Moors, man. I don't want to hear that. George Washington was a Moor. All right, continue, brother.
Washington continued, explaining that, quote, it gives me pleasure to have this opportunity of assuring your majesty that while I remain at the head of this nation, I shall not cease to promote every measure that may conduce to the friendship and harmony which so happily subsists between your empire and them, unquote. Washington closed with these words of blessing, quote, may the Almighty bless your imperial majesty, our great magnanimous friend, with his constant guidance and protection, unquote. Sadly, in keeping with the tenor of the confusing and complicated negotiations, Sidi Muhammad never received George Washington's letter. The Sultan passed away 2 months before the letter arrived.
And that's it. These are the sources to this article. Bam! We're unpacking the United States tonight. So this article here, right, spoke a lot about, it was a great brief article. Talk about the relationship with Morocco during the American Revolution, relationship with Morocco after the American Revolution, and then the George Washington and Sultan Sidi Muhammad relationship. Keep in mind that it follows a relationship with the President of Congress in 1787. You see, which it wasn't George Washington. When it was the Continental Congress, wasn't George Washington the general? So in on December 1st, 1789, George Washington sat down and wrote a letter to Sultan Sidi Muhammad. By that time, now he was the president. So let's see what he says in his letter. Go ahead and read here, good brother. New York, 1st December 1789.
Since the date of the letter.
By the way, you see how y'all see, y'all notice this is how in all my correspondences This is the date structure that I use, don't I? Have y'all noticed that?
It's long.
This is where it comes from. Go ahead, bro.
Since the date of the letter, which the late Congress by their president addressed to your Imperial Majesty, the United States of America have thought proper to change their government and to institute a new one, agreeable to the Constitution.
Okay, pause right there. Okay. So, President of Congress. Because remember, they talked about what's the brother's name?
Um,
Samuel, what was the other brother's name? Oh, the other president guy.
Samuel Huntington.
Yeah, there you go. Right, and then now it's who? The treaty was ratified by Congress, signed by the president of Congress. So when he says here, since the date of the letter, which the late Congress by their president, the president of the late Congress, Sam Huntington or whatever, or whoever it was at the time, something that's worth looking into. See, this language is specific. By their president, addressed to your Imperial Majesty, the United States of America have thought proper to change their government, you see, and to institute a new one, agreeable to the Constitution, of which I have the honor of herewith enclosing a copy. So he sent the Sultan a copy of the Constitution. What is that called, Moors? Come on, Moors. You better answer this one. What is that procedure called, that due process called?
Judicial notice.
No.
Ratified and deposited.
Anyone?
Receiving a copy.
Ratifying.
No.
No.
Ratifying. No, man. Ratifying is when you sign it, brother.
Yeah. He's saying it. What is enclosing a copy considered?
And so exactly. So he enclosed a copy of the Constitution and sent it to the Sultan. That is a notification. No, it's called depository.
Depository.
Okay. When we established our Constitution, when we established our Constitution, then we have to enclose it and send someone a copy, enclose a copy to someone. Who do we have to send a copy to?
12 signatory powers?
No.
I know the UN.
Yes, but who in the UN?
Antonio Gutierrez.
Antonio Gutierrez.
The Secretariat.
Secretary Antonio
Of
Gutierrez.
the United Nations. So we had to enclose a copy and send it to them. A copy of our Constitution, Declaration of Independence, the whole nine. Public inauguration, that's called a depository. It's being deposited with the United Nations.
Okay.
So that's what he did back then, in 1789, when there was no United Nations. What was then, which became the United Nations? What was it then in 1789? Y'all better answer this question.
The diplomatic post.
The League of Nations?
No. This is 1789.
1789.
Clearly, it was Morocco.
Rashid, say it again, Rashid.
Diplomatic post.
No. Yes and no. Diplomatic what?
Diplomatic regions.
No, it's not called. It's not called the diplomatic post. It's called the
Relations.
They had legations.
Diplomatic relations.
They had legations. It was called the diplomatic body. The diplomatic body in Tangiers, where all the different countries had their own legation. Just like you have the United Nations, where all the countries have their own. Well, I wouldn't say legations. There's not legations, but they have a post. Each country has a post, within the United Nations as the General Assembly. Same concept. So when that's what George Washington did in 1789, what we did in 2024. You see how it's the same thing all over again? The clock of destiny. This is what I told him. As the clock of destiny continue ticking, that's what I said to Trump. Clock of destiny is just ticking and ticking away in our favor. Everything is coming back into our hands. Captain America, the white Captain America, got old as hell and gave the shield to the new black Captain America. Transfer of power. The white man gave the shield back to the black man. It was written. There is no getting around it. So that's what he did, which signals that Sultan Sidi Muhammad is what? The sovereign authority.
Yeah.
And George Washington and the United States are the subordinate ones. Here's my constitution. Please recognize us. Uh-huh. Okay, brother, continue.
Um, um,
The time necessary.
with the time necessarily employed in this arduous task and the derangements occasioned by so great, though peaceable a revolution, will apologize and account for your majesties not having received those regular advices and marks of attention from the United States, which the friendship and magnanimity of your conduct towards them afforded reason to expect.
So I think we know by now that your regular advices and marks of attention, that's the tributes and the taxes that you owed the empire. Continue. Go ahead, bro.
The United States having unanimously appointed me to the supreme executive authority in this nation, your majesty's letter of the 17th August 1788, which by reason of the dissolution of the late government remained unanswered, has been delivered to me. I have also received the letters which your imperial majesty has been so kind as to write in favor of the United States to the Bashars of Tunis and Tripoli, and I present to you the sincere acknowledgments and thanks of the United States for this important mark of your friendship for them.
Okay, so what did he say? The United States having unanimously appointed me to the supreme executive authority. The supreme executive authority. See, he presides over all the institutions. And presides is specific. Presides means reside. You don't make up your own definition. You do not make up your own definition. And if you fall for such a ridiculous, wicked approach, then you deserve what you got coming to you. Isaac, Amir, Bakara. Anyway, yeah, so the United States having unanimously appointed me to the supreme executive authority in this nation, Her Majesty's letter of the 17th August 1788, which, by reasons of the dissolution of the late government, see, the late government was dissolved. That's the Continental Congress, which then brought him into power as the United States, who appointed him as the supreme executive authority. That's the transition that took place with the United States. We're learning the true history of the United States. So they changed their government. You see? Continue, brother.
We greatly regret that the hostile disposition of those regencies towards this nation who have never injured them is not to be removed
Mm-hmm.
on terms in our power to comply with.
Okay, but so hold on. We greatly regret that the hostile disposition of those regencies. Who are the regencies, Morris? We just said it. Y'all better be able to answer this one. Who are the regencies? What are the regencies?
Tunis, Tripoli, and
Yeah, it was in here somewhere. Tunis, Tripoli, and Algiers.
Algiers.
Regencies of Algiers, Tunis, and Tripoli. Those are Moorish governments. Those are Moorish jurisdictions. Algiers, Tunis, and Tripoli. So from the halls of Montezuma to the shores of Tripoli, they were dealing with the what? Hostile disposition of the regencies up and down the Atlantic Ocean. Continue, brother. And they're not to be removed.
Wow.
Continue, brother.
Within our territories, there are no mines, either of gold or silver, and this young nation, just recovering from the waste and desolation of a long war, have not as yet had time to acquire riches by agriculture and commerce. But our soil is bountiful and our people industrious, and we have reason to flatter ourselves that we shall gradually become useful to our friends. The encouragement which your majesty has been pleased generously to give to our commerce with your dominions, the punctuality with which you have caused a treaty with us to be observed, and the just and generous measures taken in the case of Captain Proctor, made a deep impression on the United States and confirmed their respect for and attachment to your imperial majesty.
Hold up. Read that again. Let's read that again. Made a deep impression on the United States and confirmed their respect for and attachment to your imperial majesty.
He thanking them for not harming the ship that they captured, and Captain Proctor, he's saying his name.
Say it again.
He's thanking them for not harming that brig that they captured, and I guess the captain of that brig was Captain Proctor.
Uh-huh. But the takeaway here is the attachment to your imperial majesty. The United States is attached to his imperial majesty. This is what their president said.
He said commerce in your dominions as well.
That's correct. Right here. The encouragement which your majesty has been pleased generously to give to our commerce with your dominions.
Oh, yeah, I see that clearly.
The punctuality with which you have caused the treaty with us to be observed, the Treaty of Peace and Friendship, and the just and generous measures taken in the case of Captain Proctor. Right, when he sees that ship, right? Made a deep impression on the United States and confirmed their respect for and attachment to. So they have respect for his imperial majesty and they are attached to your imperial majesty. Fast forward to 2026. I demand respect from the colonists to me as the imperial majesty in the Empire of Morocco and the Moors, the people. If you have respect and attachment to me as Sultan Al Kabir, then that means you have respect and attachment to the 1-year-old newborn baby Moroccan baby. Did you hear what I just said? He doesn't have a title. He was just born. And the Europeans automatically, upon birth, have respect and attachment to that Moorish child. You know why? Because the power trickles downhill. So the power will start with me and it trickles all the way down to the most newest born baby, and everyone else in between. Do you understand what I just said?
Wow.
Love,
Please
Sultan.
don't take certain statements as like being arrogant. I'm driving the point home here. Because remember, I'm only Sultan for 7 years unless y'all choose to reelect me, right?
I will.
All right.
Islam, appreciate that. But the
But
the transfer of power goes from the because remember, let me let me see if I can let me pull it up. Let me see if I can hold on 1 second, Morris. I have to like stop share the where is it at? Let me show you right here. Like, hey, that I have to do that sometimes. This is the Trump letter, right? The signature page. Oh, trying to, oh, well, I'm trying to increase the size of it. Oh, I guess I got to do it. Trying to, it's not increasing. But anyhow, given under our hand and the seal of our office. So the Sultan is the people and the people is the Sultan. This seal doesn't belong to Tumbleweed. This seal belongs to the people. The Sultan is the office of the people's office. That's the people's office. So when I say I demand respect and the attachment to us in today's modern time, or to me in today's modern time, I mean us. If it happens for me, it happens for us. Me, me or I equals or mean us. Al Kabir means all the nationals. Period. So that scepter that y'all placed in my hands has everyone's name on it. That big chair that y'all gave me got everyone's name on it. The Sultan and the people are one. So when Jermaine Diaz Spencer and Impact 2.0 and Tumbleweed and them tried to subvert that authority, that seat, it was the people's seat, the people's office that was being violated. And I went having it. And I will do it all over again. I don't mind. Bring it on. I don't know who the hell they thought they was dealing with. Continue, my good brother.
Wow. It gives me pleasure to have this opportunity of assuring Your Majesty that while I remain at the head of this nation, I shall not cease to promote every measure that may conduce to the friendship and harmony which so happily subsists between your empire and them, and shall esteem myself happy in every occasion of convincing Your Majesty of the high sense which, in common with the whole nation, I entertain of the magnanimity, wisdom, and benevolence of Your Majesty. In the course of the approaching winter, the national legislature, which is called by the former name of Congress, will assemble, and I shall take care that nothing be omitted that may be necessary to cause the correspondence between our countries to be maintained and conducted in a manner agreeable to Your Majesty and satisfactory to all the parties concerned in it. May the Almighty bless Your Imperial Majesty, our great magnanimous friend, with his constant guidance and protection. Written at the city of New York, the first day of December, 1789.
New Amsterdam. In the course of the approaching winter, the national legislature, which is called by the former name of Congress, will assemble, and I shall take care that nothing be outlined that may be necessary to cause the correspondence between our countries to be maintained and conducted in a manner agreeable to your majesty. That's respect. Unfortunately, though, what happened? Sidi Muhammad passed away. Sidi Muhammad, 1790, came to the throne of Morocco around 1757. One of the most enlightened of Morocco's 18th century rulers. Right? He was concerned with expanding the country's commerce with other nations. You see, that's all he cared about was expanding the country's commerce with other nations. I got all this land, millions upon millions of square miles of land, not acres, square miles. I could let a country post up over there. I could let another country post up over here, and I could let another country post up over there. And all
Right.
these countries are paying me taxes. It's the monopoly board.
So he was the first Mr. Monopoly for real.
He was the first Mr.
For real.
That's what it is. Right now, the United States is boardwalk, Moors. Don't be mad and upset with them and all this, victimized mindset and fear and this and that. Man, please get your mind right. Take back the throne and then start cashing in on your cash cow. Come on. Wake up. He was concerned with expanding his country's commerce with other nations. Less successful were his attempts to mitigate Morocco's draconian system of justice. As early as the 1770s, Sidi Muhammad had made friendly overtures to the United States, although he was discouraged by the failure of the Continental Congress to respond. So the Continental Congress, which was under the Moors, we know that already. The 8 presidents under the Continental Congress, starting with John Hanson, were Moors. British Moors, whatever Moors, but they were Moors. So they were slow to respond. Well, I swear we don't be caring. Well, we something
For an
else.
adventure Sultan,
Oh man, we something else. Go ahead. Go ahead, bro.
what is draconian
I
system
don't
of
know. I might have to look
justice?
that up. We got to look that up. I have that same question as well. I don't want to give you an answer that I'm not sure about. But I'm Draco. I was told that I'm Draco, like a reptilian. Dracos are reptilians, advanced beings. I was told that they see Draco in me, something weird like that. I don't know. Maybe I am Draco. I don't know. Uh, they are green, and green means copper. It means copper. Green is copper, right? I forgot what the terminology is.
Yeah,
That's why the
reptilians.
huh?
They're reptilians.
Yeah, I know that. No, I'm saying, but green means yeah, I know that. I'm talking about the color green. Green means copper. When the copper gets oxidated or whatever, it turns green.
We were green
Anyhow,
millions of years ago.
huh?
We were green hundreds of
That's what I'm
thousands of
saying.
years
That's
ago.
my point. That's my point. I think in the original version it's green, and then when the copper gets oxidized, it becomes brown. I don't know, one or the other. But either way, green and brown is like the same color based on that. As early as the 1770s, Sidi Muhammad had made friendly overtures. What was that? Failure of the Continental Congress to respond. So the Continental Congress, which was headed by the Moors, they were slow to respond. They're like, man, I'll get to him when I get to him. That's some man. That's how. That's. I can't say the word. That's some end stuff. I mean, if I was off, it's unbecoming of a sultan to talk that way. So I can talk with my street language. So I gotta,
Can I do it for you?
no, you can't. I gotta
Okay.
confine my remarks. But that's some end stuff. That's some Negro stuff. Let's just put it that way. I'll get to him when I get to him. I can tell. I can see it. I can see it, bro. We something else. By 1786, however, he had signed a liberal treaty of friendship, a liberal treaty of friendship with the United States. Copies of both of these letters were included in Sidi Muhammad's letter to Congress of 17 August 1788. The letter to the Bey of Tunis. The letter to the Bey of Tunis has not been found, but an Italian translation of the letter to the Basha of Tripoli is in the DNA PCC item 88. Islam. So that's the first letter to Sidi Muhammad from George Washington, 1789, in which he didn't receive because he passed away. So then he went forward with this one. 31st of March, 1791, to the Emperor of Morocco. Read that for me, good brother. Are you there, Rashid, or someone else? Anyone else? Rashid might be taxed right now. Someone want to read this?
I go ahead and get these potatoes out of my mouth. Hold on.
No, just make sure to get it all out of your mouth.
I
Eat,
am.
man. Is there someone to Buck or someone, or whatever? Okay,
Okay,
I'll
I
begin
got
reading,
it.
and then when you're ready, just let me know. I don't want you
I'm
to rush.
ready.
Okay, go ahead, bro.
Emperor of Morocco, 31st March 1791, to the Imperial of Morocco, great and magnanimous friend, separated by an immense ocean from the more ancient nation of the earth and little connected with their politics or proceedings, we are late in learning the event which take place among them. Later in conveying to them our sentiments thereon. The death of the late emperor, your father,
Emperor.
I'm sorry, the death of the late emperor, your father and our friend of glorious memory is one of the most events which, though distant, attract our notice and concern. Receive great and good friend, receive great and good friend, my sincere sympathy with you on that loss, and permit me the same time to express the satisfaction with which I learned the accessions of so worthy of successors to the imperial throne of Morocco, and to offer you the homage of my sincere congratulations. May the days of your majesty's life be made and glorious, and may they ever mark the era during which a great people shall have been most prosperous and happy under the best and happiest of sovereigns. The late emperor, very soon after the establishment of our infant nation, manifested his royal regard and amenity to us by many friendly and generous acts, and particularly by the protection of our citizens in their commerce with his subjects. And as a further instance of his desire to promote our prosperity and intercourse with the realm, he entered into a treaty of a treaty of amity and commerce with us for, for himself and his successors to continue 50 years.
Okay, hold on 1 second. The late emperor, very soon after the establishment of our infant nation, very soon after the establishment of our infant nation, right? So the United States was an infant nation, manifested his royal regard and amity to us by many friendly and generous acts, and particularly by the protection of our citizen in their commerce with his subjects of Morocco, Moors, black people. And as a further instance of his desire to promote our prosperity and intercourse with whose realms? His realms, the Sultan's realms. Again, further confirmation that the United States is in Morocco. He entered into a treaty of amity and commerce with us for himself and his successors to continue 50 years. So right now he's like nervous because the new monarch, the new sultan, which is the son, the heir to the throne, he can say, man, to hell with this treaty of peace and friendship. I don't like y'all. I don't even know why my daddy was doing that in the first place. Agreement canceled. And it's over with for the United States, just like that, with the snap of a finger. So it's like, man, we did not go through the dissolution of we had the dissolution of the late Congress, but we didn't go through all these wars and battles. You know, they just finished the coming out of a war when he sent the first letter. We haven't had time or a chance to grow crops, right? Work our crops and our architecture. But our soil is wonderful, and we're industrious people. This is how they treated us back then. What did he say in the beginning? Separated by an immense ocean, right? That's the Atlantic Ocean, because at the time they were in Tangiers. Separated by an immense ocean from the more ancient nations of the earth. Period. The Empire of Morocco is the most ancient nation on the earth, man. I didn't say that. Who said it? Your predecessor, Mr. Trump. So my new letter is going to say stuff like that, and I'm going to probably enclose a copy of this. Yes. More ancient nation of the earth. No one in modern times, in today's times, is older than the Empire of Morocco. Nobody. And he said that back then in the 1700s. Man, let me tell you, Morris, the time is coming. There's a transfer of power that's getting ready to take place. We are the most ancient people on planet Earth, the most ancient nation. There is no way around it. There's no if, ands, or buts. This is a divine movement first, national second. It's divine first, national second. Everything has already been laid out. That's the synchronicities and the ethereal alignments that take place in the world. That in this case is in our advantage. That it's in our favor. Such as an example, the Trump administration bombing Iran during a moment of worship, holy worship, Ramadan. Thank you very much. These people were casualties of war, the collateral damage, because due to such a diabolical and terroristic attack, you shall face the wrath of Allah. And part of the wrath of Allah may just as well include giving the power back. The keys to the empire must come back into the hands of the Moors. The day will come where the Europeans will not be able to do business unless they do it through the Moors. One day, the wheels of industry will stop turning. And when it comes back online, it will be in the hands of the Asiatics. Those are decolonization prophetic statements that Noble Drew Ali made. That is alluding to the transfer of power period. It's coming. So we already have the uh, Moxin, the government, the structure, with a constitution, flag, seal, offices are filled from the empire perspective. Post a state of emergency. See, we was under a state of emergency. Everyone came together and said, no, Germain is not to be questioned. You're to be questioned, Sultan. How? I'm the Sultan. I'm Article 85. How did that flip? How did that switch over like that? I thought I was the Sultan. Oh, so y'all think Germain is the Sultan. He's not to be questioned. Oh, okay. Let's see about that. That's what caused a state of emergency, because they all came together, like he said in 174. It's a shock to the system. They all came together and said, no, that's a state of emergency. So in this new direction, which came about, this new empire that came about after this state of emergency, we're solid. We're good. We're in control. We're happy. We have harmony. Everyone is working together. No one is just arbitrarily being rejected and disrespected. So that's moving us forward. Go ahead, good brother. Go ahead and finish reading this so that the prime minister can come in with his point of interest. I forgot about the prime minister after that last read, but I'll get back with you, Grand Wazir. Just 1 second, brother. Let us finish this letter here, because I'll be going forever. Let me check myself before I wreck myself. Go ahead, brother.
The justice and magnanimity of your majesty leave us full of confidence that the treaty will meet your royal patronage also, and it will give me great satisfaction to be assured that the citizens of the United States of America may expect from your imperial majesty the same protection and kindness.
Yeah, you see that, right? Come on, man. We need your daddy died. Please don't violate. Please be in alignment with what your daddy did. We need your protections. You see. So now y'all trying to act brand new in 2025, 2026, though. This shall serve as a reminder to the Trump administration. Sales tactics. I'm here to close the deal, and I will close the deal. Go ahead, bro.
Which the example of your illustrious father has taught them to expect from those who occupy the throne of Morocco, and to have your royal word that they may account on a due observance of the treaty which connects the two nations in friendship. This will be delivered to your majesty by our faithful citizens, Thomas Barclay, whom I named consul for this United States in the dominions of your majesty, and who to the integrity and knowledge
Stop right there. Read that again, please. This will
be delivered to your majesty by our faithful citizen Thomas Barclay, whom I named consul for these United States in the dominions of your majesty.
So the United States is in the dominions of your majesty.
Right.
I never miss a chance to point out that the United States is in Morocco. Period. It's just, I mean, why people want to give me arguments? I don't know. But it's not me who's saying it. It's them who keep saying it. He said this in 1789, and then he said it again in 1791. And then the United States turned around and said it again in 1913 to France. And then the ICJ said it again in 1952. What you want me to say? The land is Morocco because the United States of America is in Morocco. This is the reference points. I'm not making this stuff up. This is in George Washington's letter to the Sultan. It's an official correspondence to the Sultan. For crying out loud. Continue, my good brother.
And whom to the integrity and knowledge qualifying him for that office unites the peculiar advantage of having been the agent through whom our treaty with the late emperor was received. I pray your majesty to protect him in the exercise of his functions for the patronage of the commerce between our two countries and, and of those who carry it on. May that God, whom we both adore, bless your imperial majesty with long life, health, and success, and have you always great and magnanimous friends under his holy keeping. Written at Philadelphia, the 31st day of March in the 15th year of the sovereignty and independence from your good and faithful friend, George Washington, by the
Okay.
President Thomas Jefferson.
Okay. Woo! Let me do it again. The last sentence. Written at Philadelphia, the 31st day of March, in the 15th 15th year of what? Of for
Sovereignty
sovereignty and independence.
independence.
So they had been sovereign and independent for the past 15 years. Young nation. So he's saying to the Sultan, please, Sultan, please stick to the treaty that your daddy put together for us. He's protecting us and my citizens and affording us commercial activity within his dominions. For you to disregard this treaty means our death. The British are going to come after us, and the Riff pirates and everyone is going to. We're sitting ducks. We're surrounded, please.
Exactly. It would have been beheaded.
Indeed. So from the 15th year of their sovereignty and independence, look how far they have came in 2026, Morris.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Okay. So that was the second and final George Washington letter to the son of Sidi Muhammad III. It doesn't say his name in here. We have to look it up. It should have been in here, shouldn't it? It's interesting that it's not in this document. Nowhere in here. I forget his son's name. We'll look into that. Grand Wazir Akil, are you there, good brother?
Yeah, I'm here.
Islam, brother. Now, so real quick segue. So as we have identified here that there's a specific way that you need to go about establishing your sovereignty and independence. Political reforms, right? Diplomatic relations, friendly relations with other nations. That's also in the Montevideo Convention. What was being proposed was the go into the ICJ, mediation, arbitration, conciliation, arbitration, specific settlement of disputes. No, wrong answer. That's for the member states amongst member states. That mechanism is for that. As it relates to decolonization, historical precedence points to political and social reforms. Period. All other countries, that's what they did. No one has decolonized through the ICJ because you're not even if you're a colonized people seeking independence, then that means you're not a member state of the United Nations, which means you're not in position, let's say, to accomplish the task by those means, because the ICJ has absolutely nothing to do with decolonization, other than to come in with an advisory opinion on the legal matters surrounding the dispute between those two states, being the colonized versus the colonial powers. So, Prime, could you give a brief on the difficulties on moving the ICJ for uh, for the purpose of decolonization.
Indeed. Um, how I would like to present this is well, I first like to ask the floor a question, and this is for particularly those who've been around long enough to answer this question. Does anybody recall what the former Chief Judge, Jay Bay, said that the first thing that we had to do in order to go to the ICJ? What is the first thing? He said all we got to do is what? Does anybody recall?
Elect the Sultan.
Said,
Uh, After that, what comes after the Empire State? In order to take somebody to the ICJ, what first must be done?
well, legally, we have to become a recognized state legally, but what he said was something different. Uh, uh, what did he say?
I'll help you out. He
Point of
said that, yeah, go ahead.
former chief strategy was the erga omnes, pulling all the states, um, all the states together, that he called Operation Swarm, to file a class action lawsuit. That was his strategy. I yield.
Okay, ergonomics is a part of it, but what I was looking for was he stated that all we had to do was petition the United Nations. I'm not sure if some of y'all remember that, but he stated that all we had to do was petition the United Nations to start off,
That's
on
correct.
top of everything that y'all said, right? The erga omnes, getting recognized, of course, that. But the first thing that he said, all we got to do is petition. Okay, so I'll get to that point here in a moment, but keep that in mind as far as this petition. When would this and how would this come about, right? So I'll get to that here momentarily, but I'll build my way up to that. So what we have to understand here is that many of us know, hopefully all of us, that we're not a member of the United Nations, the Empire of Morocco, right? Understanding the Kingdom of Morocco is different, right? I don't have to say some of this knowledge, but the Empire of Morocco is not a member of the United Nations. This means that the two doorways, if you will, are not the same for non-member states opposed to member states. Okay. Um, Article 93, subsection 1 of the United Nations Charter explains doorway number one. It says that basically all ipso facto members of the United Nations already have access to the ICJ automatically because you're a member of the United Nations, right? Then the next subsection 2 of Article 93 speaks on the non-member states and what that encompasses, or at least so much. It says a non-member state can become a party to the ICJ, but what are the steps? We'll get to that here in a moment. So just to put that on the table, right? A non-member state can take a United Nations or a member of the United Nations to court, but under what instructions? Okay, so when you look up the instructions furthermore on how a non-member state
Point of
of the
interest,
United
Brian.
Nations, yeah,
Real quick for further clarity. Don't get it twisted. A non-member state is still they're still recognized by other countries. They're just not members of the United Nations. recognize that difference. So you see, we're not even a non-member state because nobody recognizes us. Now, again, the empire itself it has its own perpetual recognition based on treaty relations. We know that. So who requires the recognition? Me as the Sultan, Akil as the Prime Minister, and no one has recognized us yet. So that even takes us out of the realm of non-member states regarding the definition or the understanding that you can be a non-member state while still be a state that's recognized internationally. I hope that makes sense. I do.
Excellent point. And I'll be reiterating that same thing here momentarily as I build up. It's an excellent point. Um, so understanding that again, the non-member state can take a state of the United Nations to court, but under what stipulations? What's the instructions? Okay, so if we look at the statutes of the ICJ, we can get these answers, as well as resolution number 9 of the Security Council. These two um, sources give further instructions on how a non-member state can take a member state to court. Now, um, what's okay? So we talk about doorway number 1, right? So doorway number 2 is exactly what I just spoke on, Article 35 of the Statutes of the ICJ and Resolution 9 of the Security Council. Okay, so now we're talking about doorway number 2. Okay, so according to the Resolution 9 of the Security Council, a special declaration must be submitted to the United Nations, in which that um, they pretty much have to, within their scope, agree that everything aligns. So we're looking for approval, acceptance, if you will. Now, keep in mind what the Sultan just said. In treaties since 1906, 1880, 1786, right? The Moorish treaties, we've been recognized in law, but there's different types of recognition. At this moment in time, we have not received a response from the United States of America, nor the United Nations, which means that we are not diplomatically recognized. So, how likely is it, being that we reached out several times and nobody has responded, that they'll all of a sudden respond to a quote unquote petition or a special declaration? Now, this is just one element. I mean, this is not all of it. This is just one element. But how likely is it that if the United Nations has not diplomatically recognized us formally, just like the United States has, what do? Well, let's keep this also in mind. We know, those who are officials and been working with the empire, that in fact we are to some degree recognized diplomatically. How do we know this? Well, because when we get pulled over, to the Sultan's point earlier, what does it say in the cop system? Uh, uh, diplomat. That means somebody had did their job as it relates to sending documentation as a state, being a state, to the United Nations. Somebody did their job. Somebody recognized those documents, passed along, and say, hey, they're at step number 1. They're a state. So to some degree, we are diplomatically recognized to some degree. We have stories on wins as states, right? As well as quote unquote lessons or losses, but they're lessons, right? There were things that out of whack we could have did better, etc. So again, diplomatic recognition is not holistic to just sit here and pretend Like all you got to do is send a petition in, and they'll gladly put it on the public websites, just like they didn't put that Supreme Court case that we won on the websites. Literally a Supreme Court case in the state of Texas, which DMT has reclaimed. There's a Supreme Court case that says lack of jurisdiction on behalf of the Empire of Morocco. Yet, and again, it's not public. You got to get it printed out to see that information from the courts. So, with that said, knowing that they didn't put that public, how realistic is it for a case to be public in the United Nations, knowing that we are not getting any response anywhere else within the organization of the United Nations? It's not very likely that they all of a sudden want to do right. Say, hey, you decide to take us to court? Well, okay, fine. Everything else we ignore, but this one we'll pay attention to. Okay. Why? And before I go to my next points, there's still quite a few points I would like to, not a lot, but like to weigh in on. The United States of America, just like the United Nations, is in the Empire of Morocco, which means they must follow the laws of the Empire of Morocco. It's not just the United States who has to reconsider several things in international law. The United Nations as well. Now you are starting to see why diplomatic recognition is not favorable as far as them on their behalf. They don't see it as favorable, at least. They don't see it that way. I ain't gonna say it's not, but they don't see it that way. So there's a lot that comes with this, recognizing the Empire of Morocco, no matter who you are. If we're talking about the United Nations, well, you understand that the Empire of Morocco will be the new United Nations. We have a Moorish consular court, in which I'll get to here momentarily, that's in treaties. And in that treaty, it says consular court, not the ICJ. But I'm going to build up to that point. So knowing that we are not diplomatically recognized, right, even though we're recognized in treaties, remember, there's different types of recognition. Again, it's not likely. So that's the element number one, if you will. Why else is it not likely that going to the ICJ, successfully decolonizing that way, knowing it, and using that as your initial step at that, knowing that history doesn't even support that evidence, how likely is it? Well, when you also consider the fact that the United States of America has withdrawn from several treaties in the United Nations, you begin to understand why. Because let me just say this. The Vienna Convention on the Law of Treaties, the VCLT, states that basically once you withdraw from a treaty, you're no longer binding. It takes about 6 months to 12 months after that written notice that a state withdraws from a treaty to no longer be binding or bound to that treaty. One example is, in the most core example, is the 1986 case between the USA and Nicaragua, in which after that case, the USA withdrew themselves from what's called the optional protocol concerning the compulsory settlements of disputes. They withdrew themselves from that, which means that, and so some people might think, well, the United States, they starting to seem like they're starting to back out this United Nations thing. acceded to several treaties just to get on board, get accepted by the world, in so many ways. And then once you accept it, you start to backtrack, start to take away all these elements, the Constitution, you start withdrawing from these treaties, right? So it's kind of in a sense, just a sidebar here, just like how many states, like have in several ways, how many states don't have the full weight of what actually, or all elements, I should say, of what actually makes a state, yet they're recognized as a state all over the world. Whether it's you don't have a constitution, yet you're seen as a state government, or you're pretending to be this nationality, even though your constitution says another nationality, yet everybody in the world is calling you that other nationality. Whatever the case may be, there's many different errors that need to be corrected, right? But let's stick to point here. When the United Nations, or excuse me, the United States of America withdrew themselves from that optional protocol in 1986, that means when it comes to the settlement of disputes, anything after that does not take the same effect as it was before. Now, again, let's be holistic. The United States did break treaty law before 1986, which means they're still responsible for the things they broke. But we got to make it make sense. Okay, let me use another example before I tie in what I just said. Um, the USA versus Mexico case, the Avena case in 2004, they withdrew themselves from another treaty the United States did. It was the optional protocol on the VCCR. A year later, they withdrew themselves, which means that anything after that, they cannot be taken to court for. They have to give consent after 1986 for settlement of disputes, right? The one they withdrew for, the optional protocol on the settlement dispute, the compulsory settlement disputes, they have to give consent for. That element number two to understand. They have to, both parties have to give consent. The ICJ cannot force anybody to just appear in the court. They can't do that. They have to follow what the treaties say. What do the Morris Treaty say with the United States of America? Well, we got consular court, not the ICJ. There's consular court. Okay, so if the United Nations has to hold treaty paramount, first in time, first in line, these several Morris treaties came way before the United Nations did. They said you got to go to consular court. The only way the ICJ can practically make somebody come to court is by calling out how they are bound to a treaty that says such a thing. Consular court is not the ICJ. So with that said, we got to understand first and foremost, again, how Article 70 in the VCLT, the Vienna Convention on Law of Treaties, again, it explains how a state can withdraw themselves, right, from a treaty. But what else does this further state that has a lot of the colonizers sweating? Well, once they see that the Moors, all they got to do is pick up where they left off, and that realize that where we left off, there was a diplomatic tangier body, basically the old time United Nations, but it was ran by the Empire of Morocco. When you realize that there's a body that has been left vacant, left sitting there, just left dormant, active, but just left dormant. Nobody's been there to run it. You say, okay, well, if the United Nations consists of colonizers and people who have decolonized, while the diplomatic tangier body, if you will, right, that was the name for it, is still active and will be basically the opposite of colonialism. Don't you think the United Nations and all other uh, organizations and or states that support colonialism in any type of way will start to sweat? Yeah. Okay, so why are we not aiming for consular court and why are we aiming for the ICJ? Okay, well, let's talk about this a little bit more. The empire has a Moorish consular court that says any foreigner can be summoned to the consular court of the Empire of Morocco. Any. With that said, and understanding the fact that the ICJ has no enforcement power, none, what would be the point of going to a court that has no enforcement power, parading around like that's the way, knowing that the consular court, as it says in treaties, is the most paramount court that we must abide by. The United Nations even has to abide by that. If they gave an advisory opinion, what are they going to say? Look at what your treaty says. It says consular court. So what is that saying? Even to the United, it's like talking to yourselves as the United Nations saying, hey, United Nations, we got to go to consular court too because we're in Morocco, and it says any foreigner can be summoned. Guess who we are? If I'm talking about as if I'm a United Nations member, foreigners. So these foreigners are part of different states, right? Who are involved in the United Nations. They're looking at this saying, okay, I'm a part of the United Nations and or another state in some way, right? How is it that the ICJ is paramount? Why is it that the former Chief Judge J. Bay paraded around the fact of us wanting to go to the ICJ, saying all we got to do is petition? Okay, well, why nobody said anything about this resolution 9 of the Security Council, which gives instructions, which basically they have to abide by a certain scope, just like the C-24 aspect we spoke on earlier today. The C-24 just can't say, oh, this is the Empire of Morocco. We're in the Empire of Morocco. Just do what they say, no matter how they say it. Under the former Chief Judge J. Bay's tutelage, our steps were incorrect. Period. Incorrect. Wrong. Just as incorrect as you think of the consul general should be on an internal state or a more minister of foreign affairs should be an internal state. These things are still open wounds that they don't care to course correct on. So what does that tell you? These lighter things that are easy to course correct, just imagine more serious things. Oh boy, you have a better chance getting out of, you know, hell, for those who believe in that, getting out of hell with the flames and all that and the devil and making best friends with, whatever, make it with Buddha or whatever the case may be. It makes no sense. So understanding the fact, again, one of the most core elements is that our treaties say consular court, consular court. What exact instructions were going to take us to the ICJ successfully? Again, knowing that they're not responding to anything. Okay, we let's just say we filled out that quote unquote petition. What they don't respond, then what? Then what? We're depending on a response, which is basically a form of approval in order for us to do what we got to do. Okay, how about this? The Moorish Conquer Court needs nobody's approval unless it's the Empire of Morocco itself. So once we understand this 5D chessboard, this mini chessboard, and we say, okay, we X out the ICJ, and we understand that the empire has to quote unquote get it out the mud for real, for real. Going to the ICJ for assistance initially to the ICJ is not getting it out the mud. It's not. It's not even following the treaties, what the treaties say. There's treaties in the ICJ statute is a treaty in international law. But guess what? What treaties precedes that treaty? The Moorish treaties that says everything about constant courts. So let's talk about the VCCR briefly. Let's talk about the VCDR briefly so I can paint this picture based on law. If a state accedes or binds themselves to the VCCR, the VCDR, or any treaty in international law that says anything about the ICJ, let's just stick with the VCCR just to keep things simple. If we were to bound our, in which we did, we reacceded to the VCCR, just as many other states did. That does not mean you automatically get to take somebody to the ICJ. None of these ways make sense as far as being able to lawfully take somebody to the ICJ. So we're talking about treaties and being bound, right? Because we're talking about treaties being bound in jurisdiction. What treaties? What treaties are you bound to? So we got to put this in order, chronological order. Remember, first in time, first in line. When we see these treaties, VCCR, VCDR, etc., right? They have specific language, but none of them say, hey, this automatically gives you the opportunity to take the other state to the ICJ. Just because another state broke the VCCR or VCDR does not mean taken to the ICJ. With all of this, and I'm paraphrasing basically, everything. It's practically, very little being left out, and the very little that's left out is still saying exactly what I'm saying. But to my point, and I'll conclude with this, it is 0% realistic to sit here and pretend like we'll be accepted in the ICJ just as we hope to be accepted by the C-24, the other organ of the United Nations who know good and well. It's not realistic to sit here and say and parade, hey, we're going to the ICJ with your head bobbing with no practical, uh, effective reasoning or lawful method to show for. It's not reality. You're not going to hang your hat up on acquiescence and says, oh, they know what's up. No, you're not going to hang up just because somebody didn't say something. Yeah, it does. That does say something. But are you going to hang your hat up on it. Like you know for a fact that they, just because they didn't say nothing, and acquiescence is basically means yes in law. That you can promise that this stuff is through and through going to work, and there's several stages or levels to even get there through the Security Council, right, etc. It's not realistic. It sounds just like saying somebody saying, okay, Jesus is coming back. What, you know how long they've been saying this? It was gonna be another one of those. Oh yeah, yeah, we going to the ICJ next year. We'll be ready. Okay, nah, the next year we'll be ready. Oh nah, the next year we'll be ready. Oh nah, etc. etc. So we got to understand that the consular court, if it's not remember, treaties are paramount. Why are we saying ICJ, their courts, if consular court has its own methods? You think that when we go to the consular, that if we were to go to the ICJ, understanding the fact that we do again have this Moorish consular court and its rules, right, the laws, etc. Do you think that the colonizers or even the United Nations will not only want to respond, but like I said, if we got there, do you think that everything would just go kosher, understanding the fact that the United Nations basically will understand that they themselves will have to respond to the Moorish Consular Court? I don't think, as a whole, the United Nations is that honest and transparent. I don't think they're that integral to say, hey, yeah, we know we done wrong. We know you got a Moorish Consular Court. We know you're basically the new United Nations, etc. There's a lot of holes in international law, and the empire is here to fill those holes. But it's going to be through the assistance of the United Nations in different ways. To the Sultan's point, nobody has successfully, or let alone initially, decolonized by first going to the ICJ. Nobody. Nobody. Then no would probably say we would learn government from Europeans. Okay, well, who did that? Nobody. It's not realistic. Why do you think he hasn't been saying that in any of his classes since we called that out? It's given agent provocateur vibes. That's what it's really giving. To the AG's point earlier, when you have a um, capital punishment that's expunged from the record, that
Capital,
normally doesn't
capital,
happen.
capital, capital felony.
Capital felony, excuse me, capital felony expunged. That normally doesn't happen. And not to sound uh, like I'm a conspiracy theorist, right? But what do the people tend to say when they hear things like that? Oh, this person is an agent, whether it's an agent of the agent of the agent and didn't technically sign an agreement, or the ego is an agent. Whichever way the information is instilled in your head is very agent provocateur vibes, very much so. There's, and again, take this with a grain of salt. What I'm about to say. There are people such as Brother Polite. Some of you may know him, right? Came out on the scene. Everybody thought he was true, good knowledge, etc. Right? I personally found out that he was given a deal to get out of jail free card in exchange for promoting certain knowledge. Now, in my opinion, that's what you would call an agent of a different, maybe not a CIA agent that signed up for the job and applied for it and signed, several contracts, etc. Right? Agents are created in different ways, obviously. Why am I bringing this up? Because that's the same type of analogy that this is giving. I said take it with a grain of salt because all these elements that I'm saying are facts. However, I have not myself come across a document that says the former Chief Judge J. Bay is an agent. I'm just using common sense. I don't need a paper to tell me what agent vibes look and feel like. You don't have to sign up on a document to say, hey, I'm an agent. As I stated, I say this all the time. The oppressor oppresses the oppressed until the oppressed oppresses themselves. And that's what it has gotten to. I would like for Impact 2.0 officials to listen to this because I know Jay is going to listen to this. Ask the former Chief Judge, J. Bay, the exact and lawful steps for a non-member state of the United Nations to take a member state of the United Nations to court, not just petition. Go further, go deeper, unless you don't care. That's what it seems like. Nobody's asking questions. Everybody got a gag order on. Everybody excommunicating everybody. Even that's unlawful in the Constitution. How you gonna excommunicate the Sultan or anybody, given it for when you don't have the power to do that as a judge? For two, there's nationals to protect. Even the Sultan, the current Sultan, the true de jure Sultan, Al Kabir, recently sent out an email and will send more to notify the Impact 2.0 quote unquote officials that they are still protected unless things change, unless lawful things change, right? We continue on, depending on what goes on. So you telling me that Sultan Abdul Al Kabir is willing to protect the same people of Impact 2.0, yet Impact 2.0 is very anxious in excommunicating, in not protecting, in saying he's et cetera, et cetera. It sounds like somebody doesn't care what their job description is. They're just gonna do what they want, and it ain't Sultan Abdul Al Kabir. That's what it sounds like to me. It sounds like the more and more people come in, newer people come in, and this simple evidence is being shown. And they look at the other side, no evidence is being shown. Just gag orders and quote unquote excommunication. It becomes very obvious. Tell them to show whatever evidence they have. Well, I don't even care what it is. Tell them to show whatever evidence for your own security. And if that's not shown, 1 + 1 = 2. Make it make sense. You see, and I know I said I was going to conclude 5 minutes ago, but I'll conclude with this. Who is stopping the Moors? Not the colonizers, because the colonizers are doing what we came in this world understanding what they were doing, colonizing. Yet 80 other countries, well, many other countries decolonized with that same mentality. So who is stopping the people? Ourselves, the Moors. So why do we need to keep speaking on this? Because the oppressed has oppressed themselves. Imagine not speaking on this and allowing Impact 2.0 to quote unquote nationalize people. Now you got even more people being confused. Just imagine that. Just imagine that being okay with your spirit. Unless it is, that's a different story. But just imagine a generation of people going down the drain, and you, as an official of the empire, don't want to do nothing about it. Nothing. Knowing somebody is taking your image, your power, everything that they said about in 2012 and all this type. Somebody's taking that from you. Imagine that. I would never let somebody come in my house and do that ever. So I want to conclude with this again for the third time. I encourage the Impact 2.0 people to ask these basic questions, common sense questions, and go against those devilish acts, those devilish gag orders. They you gotta understand. Once this evidence that the empire will be um showing here more in due time. There's more, right? We'll turn it into shorts, so it's real short and sweet. You ain't gotta listen to a 2 hour plus call. We'll put it in the short and allow the Impact 2.0 officials, quote unquote, to ask those same very questions about that evidence being produced. Because not one piece of evidence has come about Impact 2.0. They're keeping everything in house, scared to say anything. Don't even post nothing on social media anymore. They're scared. So I want everybody study. Don't listen to anything I'm saying without studying for yourself. And I mean that. Because that's what got us falling downhill just in these past couple years. And I see how abstaining from a vote is saying is very loud. I see how not speaking up or not studying for yourself after every call, meeting, etc., as an official. I see how that got the empire to fall because we was going nowhere fast, just in a matter of a few years. Got a lot of success, but planning to go nowhere fast. So with that, I like to yield. I'm not gonna keep going. I like to yield the floor back to the Sultan or for anybody of that matter um, that that would like to speak. And let me also say this too. Actually, let me also say this too. Something just popped in my head. Impact 2.0, specifically J Bay, the former chief judge, his highest hope, his highest attribute that he feels that he has is trying to get Kanye Shobe out of Impact. He's trying to exercise these state plates, these
No,
Moroccan
brother.
state plates.
We'll hold that. We'll hold off on that for now.
Oh, I was about to go there. Okay.
No, don't go there. There's a whole
All right.
lot. No. This is not the platform for that. This is the open discussion session. The class and all that. So we'll deal with that with all those things in short order. Everything is being put together for that. But I think that what we need to do at this point now is to get back to the real point. Since 2022, we have been going to the IECJ.
Mm.
Every year is the IECJ.
Hmm.
Um, No, it's not happening, Captain. Uh,
What
the
eventually?
WRC. Oh, hold on a second. The
Okay.
WRC comes in, erga omnes parties, no ICJ. Now is the Empire. Are we going to the ICJ? No ICJ. We're not going to the ICJ. It appears and feels and it appears and feels like an absolute stalling mechanism holding us back. Uh, some people, I got a lot more to say. The prime took up a lot of time. We're about to get, it's basically going on 11 o'clock. Um, so please, whoever is next that want to say something, please make it brief so that I can get this point out. I just don't want, if I start, I'm not going to stop. So go ahead and get your points out real quick, please, and be brief as you can. I yield.
Yes, it's real brief. J Bay is just like the colonists, he just why they say that old saying, he's stalling, denying, and defending his position, just like the United States. And I put that in the chat, and I use.
Is there anyone else has a point of interest? We've been going to the ICJ virtually every year, and with every forward progress. But irregardless, though, let's listen. I give credit where credit is due. I give credit where credit is due. You don't make it. You can't make distinctions. You give credit for the good, you get credit for the bad. I give credit where credit is due across the board for the good and the bad. Period. In this case, as Makara would say, as she told me many times, because she's an astrologer, she deals with astrology. She would always say that Jermaine Diaz Spencer is a lower self Gemini. As such, you'll get a lot of negative, um, deceitful, uh, cynical, manipulative, right, aspects in the character, coupled with good. So it's a it's a nice blend of good and bad. It's a great strategy. It's a great strategy, but it's unsustainable. But you get credit. Everyone gets. Listen, we've always said that upon decolonization, I have always said that upon decolonization, some people will be holding champagne glasses, others will be holding champagne bottles. That means a big check versus just income, high income, which is directly linked to your uh, involvement and activity. Your input determines your output. So if you don't do nothing, don't expect nothing. So a lot of the removed officials of AMPAC 2.0, a lot of them had a lot of input. Credit where credit is due. That means that everyone is due a check. Not taking away their check that they earned from the work that they did. That was positive in nature. No, everyone's still gonna get you're gonna whatever your input was, your result is what your output is, and that's what they're gonna get. So Jermaine gonna get his check. Monica the Castilian, she'll get her check. Curly, which is Dre, Curly of the Three Stooges, he get his check. Tumbleweed may not, he ain't do nothing. But there's a lot of people who did a lot of work that are with AMPAC 2.0. They're gonna get their economic liberty payoff. What you're not getting back is your position. No one over there would ever be able to reclaim the position of authority. And the Castilian has been grandfathered out. He will never be grandfathered back in. But you'll get your check. That's as fair as it can be. Excommunication is nonsensical. I could be the president of the United States in the place of Trump, and I'm dealing with seditious activity from the Democratic Party, Letitia James, because they like to use our sisters in our people to further their agenda, and we always fall for it. What is the how many commas in that check? Okay, I'll do it. Trumps, like Malcolm X said. At any rate, because I have a political dispute with Letitia James and I'm the president, doesn't mean that I excommunicate her. She still comes under the protections of the Constitution. It doesn't mean she can't go to jail, though. Oh, I said a lot just now, didn't I? Come under the sovereign protections. It doesn't mean you can't go to jail, though. And I have two people in mind.
They got
I
their
will not
money to buy their noodles.
with no packets. They get to buy noodles with no packets. I have those in mind. I won't rest. This ain't over. The dust is settling, or it has settled. And I'm going to stir it back up. I'm stirring it back up. You're not going away easily. I'm not the one to play with. Very loving, very easygoing, very flexible. The Moors can tell you that in this new jurisdiction, no one feels disrespected. And everyone has a voice. Everyone got their sleeves rolled up. Everyone are doing their parts. Those who are doing their parts, you know who you are. Everyone is involved. It's called harmony. Unity, loyalty, conformity, and obedience. It develops harmony and patriotism. That's the formula to our success for the next 1,000 years. Not necessarily under my leadership, obviously. However, my leadership represents the foundation as distinguished from seditious activities, dishonesty, dishonorable wickedness from a psychopathic narcissist. Before we close out, we have Journals of the Continental Congress, 1774 to 1789 on the screen. I want you all to screenshot this so that you can go back and download this PDF. If you type Control F and you pull up this box over here in the top right corner, Control Find, you type in Morocco, you'll find Morocco in there 10 times. 1, 2, and then if you keep clicking, go here, maybe number 1, or you can go to page 143. Or you can go to this in this case concerning this class. Let's go to page 146, number 4. This is the Journals of Congress. Copy of a former letter of Congress to the Emperor of the to be disclosed or to be enclosed in the above. The Congress of the 13 United States, North America. When have you all ever heard the 13 United States of North America? That's what it was called. The Congress of the 13 United States of North America to the high, potent, and most noble prince, the king and emperor of Morocco, potent. These are the titles that they use in the Shriners Club. The Shriners clandestine. I want that word to ring in the minds of the Moors in the within the empire. Clandestine, secret activity, excommunication, secret movements. We got to be in secret. We don't need them to know what's going on. Could you not tell them could you not put it in this ANPAC study session so they don't know what's going on? That's what Makara asked the seditious removed judge. At any rate, potent. This is what they refer to. That's what they use in the high potentate of the Shriners. That's the highest degree, the high potentate or something like that. Most noble and puissant prince, we, the Congress of the 13 United States of North America, have been informed of your majesty's favorable regard to the interests of the people we represent, which has been communicated by Étienne Caille. We are of Sale, Council of Sovereign Nations, unrepresented in your majesty's states. Majesty's states, plural. So he is the consul for foreign nations, unrepresented. So the United States had no representation within your majesty's states, within his dominions, within the Sultan's realms, right? The attachment to his imperial majesty, Islam, in order that we may demonstrate more fully the high value we place upon the amity of so enlightened and magnanimous a prince. We have given the necessary orders to our minister plenipotentiary at the court of the most Christian majesty, the King of France. That's a more. This is 1700s. So in the 1700s, right, we had a Moorish, most Christian majesty, king of the French government. And a proper person will receive powers to enter into negotiations for settling a treaty of peace and commerce with such representative of your majesty as you may please to appoint. This, from your majesty's great wisdom and generosity, we have no doubt will be adjusted to the mutual advantage of both nations. In the meantime, should any of the subjects of our states come within the ports of your majesty's ports or territories, we flatter ourselves they will receive the benefit of your protection and benevolence. You may assure yourself of every protection and assistance to your subjects from the people of these states whenever and wherever they may have it in their power. We pray your majesty, we enjoy long life, uh, we pray your majesty may enjoy long life and uninterrupted prosperity. Oh, but then you come later on and interrupt it. Help the French interrupt it. Yeah, okay. Signed in and by order of the Congress of the 13 United States in North America, man. This is what they call themselves. Officially on the record, this is the journal of Congress. The 13 United States in North America. Day of the month, December of the year of our Lord Christ, 1780, and of our independence. This is the letter or whatever legislation or bill, or it's not even that really, but there's a lot of bills in here. It's a letter. Actually, it's a draft. It's a correspondence draft of a letter from Congress to the Emperor of Morocco. That's what it is. Dealing with and thanking him for the Frenchman who was the merchant consul assisting the United States. So go into that document, type Control F, type in Morocco in that box, and then have fun. There's a lot of information dealing with Morocco as it relates to the United States Congress, Journal Congress, U.S. Congress journals or whatever.
Scroll all the way up to the
The
top.
1700s. What was that?
Scroll all the way up to the top.
I had that screen up for like.
Yeah, I wrote most of it down.
Where is it? Okay, there it is, right?
There you go. 1774. Okay. I got it.
That's the whole thing.
Yes, I got it.
Journal of the Continental Congress, 1774, 1789, Morris. Go do your research. Go study. Make yourself approved. We're heading in the right direction. I think this class showed you that the political reforms, the politics, the diplomatic relations, the friendly relations, the communication, the correspondences between heads of state. See, oftentimes in the meetings, the seditious meetings, turns out they were seditious because he was conducting it, like he was the leader, like he was the Sultan. But he's the Sultan behind the scenes. That's what he is. He's the actor and not the actor, he's the director and producer. In those meetings, the Moors would always ask questions about communicating with other nations. And it was always being shut down. No, we're going to the ICJ. No, we're going to the ICJ. We're collecting evidence. No, you're not collecting evidence. You're collecting injuries. People are going to jail behind your sociopathic foolishness because you want to show the world that you can write documents. That's why Amir said, "Who's going to write the documents?" The removed Wazir of New Mecca. Who's going to write the documents? See, somebody put yourself on mute, please. I think it's you, Vice.
Yes,
Yeah, what was I saying? That made me lose my train of thought. I know I was
yes.
talking
Who's
about.
gonna write the documents?
Yeah, I know. I said that about Amir, but shoot. It's called dependency. That's what's not going on here. Everyone is doing their own thing. I'm not doing it at all for everyone, and I'm not wearing many hats. Just wearing the Sultan hat, and everyone is wearing their own hats. Everyone is staying in their lane. However, let me point out. This is what I was trying to point out. Based on what the Prime was explaining just earlier, just a minute ago, regarding the decolonization process, right? Consular court is the court. There is no ICJ in the treaties. There's consular court. What is the problem? Please listen to me, Morris. Hear me out here real quick. If you haven't listened to nothing earlier in this call, In 1913, and under the French protectorate, as we have already examined, there was a transition that took place from the French administration, from the Moroccan administration to the French administration. That set off a motion, a domino effect, for all the other Europeans to basically do the same, which includes the American administration that has replaced the Moroccan administration. As such, consular court has no full powers in effect. So we can't take them to consular court anyway. But they're just going to ignore it because it has no full powers in effect. In order for consular court to have full powers in effect again, there has to be another transition. Do y'all follow what I'm saying? So there has to be a transition back from the American administration to the Moroccan administration. That, my brothers and sisters, is what's called decolonization. That's decolonization. When your courts and your judicial authority and your administrative authority begins now to take precedence. It's the authority of the land. That's decolonization because that's what it's supposed to be in the first place. Colonization means that we're being governed. Decolonization means that we are governing. At that point is when consular court comes into full force and effect, Morris. How are we going to get there? The low-hanging fruit is called the political reforms. Politicking. It's like running a business. You gotta get your word out. You gotta get the word out. You want your products sold. You gotta get the word out. Marketing, awareness. Well, okay, it's the same thing. You want to decolonize, you need marketing, you need awareness, you need people to know the Moors are back. Like the article said, the Sultan caught wind of what's going on by way of what? The European newspapers. So we got to get into the European newspapers. The American newspapers, the African newspapers, the international newspapers, the domestic newspapers, whatever newspapers, bold and independent or not bold and dependent, irrelevant. I don't care who it is, CNN, BBC, We need awareness, while at the same time ramping up our communication efforts with other sovereign nations, heads of states, and foreign ministers. That's what I was about to say. In those meetings, that's what the Moors were questioning, was asking. They were asking, can we meet, can we correspond with other nations and other countries? No, we're going to the ICJ. We're going to the ICJ. You need to go sit down somewhere, sir, because we're going to the ICJ. Well, with the new empire and the new direction, the answer to those questions, Moors, from back then is we're doing it now. We got 13 letters in the chamber, waiting for the 2 weeks to elapse that the Trump administration has to respond to my letter. And if we don't get a response, we're just going to pull the trigger on Operation Political Swarm, as distinguished from Operation Swarm, which Operation Swarm is based in injuries. A lot of people got injured based on that operation. And that operation was based in the ego. Oh, I wrote the preliminary objection. I did that. With his wrist like bent. With a bent wrist. I did that. Huh. Thank you, sir. People were getting injured behind that approach. This approach is a lot safer for the people. We say stay out of the way. Right? Keep a low profile. Let me, the prime, the wazirs, the speaker, and others drive this political and social reform to accomplish the same task without you getting kicked in the teeth and punched in the face. You're going to get punched in the face, is what's been said. I'm not making this stuff up for those who haven't been part of these seditious meetings. This is real life stuff. And it happened for real. And it happened for real. Unfortunately, people got injured, going to jail and stuff. Heartbreaking stuff dealing with our people, man. It's tough. It's hard. It's hard. The Moors are hard-headed stiff-necks. Decolonization is an arduous task, not because of the colonists, but because of your own people. Our own people is the reason why we don't know nothing today about nothing. We were miseducated, we were bamboozled, hoodwinked, and led astray by our own Negro leaders, pretending to be for the people. I just spoke on one. He just passed away. What's the end result of his? What is the result of his legacy as a so-called political leader of the Black community? What was the advancement of the Black man and the Black woman other than another misnomer, African American? Push coalition with the rainbow symbol, logo, rainbow. Oh, okay. Man, our people, man, listen, man, we're easily paid off. We're easily bought off. We'll do anything for the check. This is where they got a problem with Abdul Al-Kabir. Don't give a damn about now check, man. That's stepping over dollars in order to pick up pennies. And I ain't never had it anyway. So I ain't missing nothing. And I already know that it belongs to us. So it's not even a stress. Who cares? What I care about is us being able to maintain the finances that's coming in for the next 1,000 years. In order to do so, the foundation has to be set. And the foundation is set based on knowledge, wisdom, and understanding, training. Once you're trained up, our judges aren't judges. Let's keep it real. Jay Bay is not a damn judge. He's a mergers and acquisitions, whatever. You're not, you cannot be self-taught. That's not, that's, can you self-teach yourself how to do open heart surgery and build a bridge? It requires specialized training. That's not a knock, though. Great efforts. What I'm saying is this. This is what I'm saying. My judicial branch, the Moorish judicial authority, I'm not expecting them to do nothing judicial at this point because they're not judges. I know that already. What I am expecting, however, is for them to be a sponge, an empty cup when the real judges come. Because now you're going to go into the status of a student working directly with the real judges. You're going to learn to be a judge from a judge. Oh, that's called training. No one is a placeholder. If you don't want to be here, then you just say, well, I'm just not cut out for this. I was just doing it to get us to a certain point, but really, I'm a magician. I want to go do my card tricks. Okay, by all means. And then we let that judge take the place. But if you want to roll with it, I want to learn and I want to be this. Okay, well then, Clarence Thomas, get to work, sir. You got to train my judge. You got to shadow him wherever he goes. You're the tutor. Moorish proteges. That's the idea. But we're going to complete this mission by through the executive branch, which is a much lower hanging fruit. Doesn't require specialized training. It's nothing to write a letter. There's nothing to negotiate. You just got to know how to talk. You just got to know how to sell. I'm a salesman. Sold all types of stuff. I got Trump. I ain't stunting that. Just let me get to the table. You will give it up. You will give up everything. Did I just say a black card earlier? That will happen. That will. I've told AMPAC this like years ago. Like 2022, actually. I told AMPAC, we're going to have a black card. I told them that then. I don't know if the AMPAC nationals that was part of that conversation, they're over there with AMPAC. They're part. They are now AMPAC 2.0. Who ain't gonna get nothing because they're not gonna complete the mission? It's us, me, the Prime, the AG, which is Kanye Chobay, who's being currently harassed by Jermaine Diaz Spencer, but that's another story. We'll get to that in another conversation. But we just saw the playbook on how we're going to accomplish the mission. It's called diplomatic relations. It's called friendly relations. It's called politics. It's called politicking. It's called correspondence, communication. It's called putting pressure on the United States for having to do what they know they have to do, which is right the wrongs, the real reparations. It's not a check. The reparations is not a check. The reparations is to help the Moors repair the empire. From that repair of the empire comes the check. Oh, see, understand the sequential order. You start with the foundation before you get to the roof. Well, the foundation is the repairing of the empire. From the repairing of the empire, reparations, comes the check. So it's incumbent upon the United States to assist the Moors in repairing the empire. And just like the article said, the benefits between the two nations is the idea, is the point. So therefore, what that means is it's my job to sell that concept. Oh, huh. Sell the reality. So this is just one of many letters that's coming from my office to the Trump administration. Sales letters written as diplomatic letters. There's something here I'm selling. There's a concept I'm selling. A deal on the table. There's a deal on the table. He's a deal maker. He is Mr. The Apprentice. He likes deals, real estate deals, Trump Tower deals. Well, I got a deal. It's called the Great Enterprise, Mr. Trump. There is no bigger real estate on planet Earth than the Empire of Morocco. Did y'all hear what the hell I just said? I got them. In the meantime, in between time, we'll continue the communications with other nations. We're not dependent on no one nation, and we certainly ain't dependent upon the United States. We are going to bring the question of Morocco to all four corners of the earth by any means necessary. But while that's taking place, I'll be dealing with the Trump administration. I've studied Trump since like forever because I used to always want to be a part of the art of the deal. Read the book, The Art of the Deal. I wanted skyscrapers too, right? I wanted to develop big buildings. It's no different than rehabbing a house. You rehab a house, you can rehab a skyscraper. It's all the same, just different numbers and different complexities, but it's all the same concept. I didn't know that the real estate was the empire's great enterprise. Moors is the reason why I'm the Sultan. I got your back. We will win, and I will hold you down. If I say unity, loyalty, conformity, and obedience is being asked of the nationals, what that means then that in good faith, the empire must reciprocate the same energy, the same vibe, which is unity, loyalty, conformity, and obedience. It goes both ways. It's not the people to the country, and it stops there. It's a cycle. The seal of the people's seal of the Sultan's seal has surrounding it around the top edges. There's two hands, one giving and one taking. That's the relationship between the people and the country. So what you do for the country does back for you. So that's why I'm saying, I got you. We're gonna win. You're gonna be wealthy beyond your dreams. You are going to be walking around with a black card as your identification card. When if a cop pulls you over and they scan it, it's gonna have a big red alert. Boy, you better watch yourself with him or her or them. You will be treated with respect and dignity and honor. When I'm done with the United States, with that, we'll go ahead and close out. Peace and love, Moors, and enjoy your evening. I'm sorry for the late call, but there was a lot to be stated. Thank you, Prime Minister, for all that you stated. Long live the Empire and His Majesty the Sultan. Peace and love, Moors. We'll reconvene next week. Islam.
Islam. Long live the Empire, His Majesty the Sultan. Peace and love.
Islam. Peace and love, Morris. Long live His Majesty the Sultan.